You're live, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Clerk Helmke. Welcome everybody to our continuation of our council meeting for Monday, September the 13th, 2021. Council has met in camera briefly, and we've now continued our meeting here at 5:30. So I want to welcome all members of council, members of our staff, and we'll continue on with our agenda today on this beautiful fall day. I guess it's still technically summer, but it seems like a fall day. Anyhow, members of council, item number 2 on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Recommendation: be it resolved that council of the township of Fairview hereby approve the agenda dated September the 13th, 2021 as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder on the approval of the agenda? Mr. Walker, Mr. Broderick, thank you. Any questions? All right, seeing none, I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, and that carries. Just again for the information, we do have our quorum. However, Councillor Leishman is away on vacation, and we wish her all the best. Hope that she's having a safe and wonderful time. So I'm sure she'll tune in later, guys, to see what this is all about. All right, members of council, let's see. We're at number 3, our disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Any member got a disclosure for today's council meeting? Thank you. Seeing none, if anything comes up during the meeting, please bring it forward. We'll deal with it appropriately. Now, council, item number 4 is our public participation period. Obviously, this is a section of the meeting where we ask the public if they have any comments they'd like to write down, send them in to us ahead of time, and they can submit them online at our participation period portal, which is available on our website, clearview.ca. So, members of council, there are 4 items that were presented. And if I may, I'd like to go to the first item, which came from Mr. Witzke. Because I've just got an old printing here. I did have it here a minute ago. It went disappeared on me. Where did it go? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. You know, I printed it off before the 12 o'clock hour, and now the meeting agenda gets amended to include the public participations after 12 o'clock. So that's why I've got 2 pieces here. Item number 1, Mr. Witzke, he wants to know about something about salaries not being disclosed in regards to current job positions that have been posted on our website. I know that Mr. Ferguson, if I could go to you in regards to that issue, and I think it's Tammy on board as our HR representative. She also produced the job postings. Perhaps we could have yourself, Mr. Ferguson, or Tammy Gill, our HR representative, provide a little bit of clarity in regards to the disclosure of those job postings. Mr. Ferguson.
Yeah, I would defer to Tammy. She looked after the posting. She's probably more aptly able to answer the question.
Excellent, thank you. Hello, Tammy Gill. Nice to see you. Welcome.
Good evening, Your Worship. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So with regards to the question about the wages not being shared in the job posting, that posting is for 3 different roles within the Public Works Roads Division. And the wages really depend upon which job they're doing and what licensing the employee has. So for example, AZ license receives a premium and so on and so forth. So to capture all of that in a job posting is a lot, but certainly, you know, I'm always happy to answer any questions people have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Gill. I appreciate that. So it's clear that the successful applicant may or may not qualify based on their licensing or other parameters. So the job posting is accurate in not revealing that information based on our collective bargaining agreement. Okay, thank you very much for that. Item number 4.2 is a question that came from Jamie Stiles. Jamie indicates that he's a local vendor in the downtown core of Stayner. He's had some questions about vending and the mobile vending that's been going on in our community. I have an answer provided to me by Joseph Paddock, who is our senior bylaw officer. And Joe, of course, has been involved in investigations of this, as well as work on our most recent update to the vending bylaw. And so he provides this information to me. Vendors are required to obtain a permit within the vending permit, it limits vending locations. Vendors must be outside of 200 meters from a business selling similar products. And there are currently no permanent vending occurring on township property. The mobile vending permit is for an ice cream truck. And the nature of that business is to operate mainly on township property, i.e. roadways, parking lots, and parks, which is within the current bylaw to allow that activity to happen. So I would hope that that helps answer some of the questions. I know it's been well discussed in our community and certainly by this council of recent when we reviewed the vending bylaw. Okay, now item number 4.3 and actually 4.4, both also issues brought up by Mr. Witzke in regards to some painting on crosswalks, and also another question from Mr. Witzke regarding the sand storage building at the Public Works Yard. I'd like to just address that one first. This has already been asked of us and also discussed that it is something that will be added or included in our 2022 budget deliberations and presentations from the Public Works Department. So we already have heard about that, but I would ask through the Mr. CAO if Mr. Perot, is he available to help us answer questions in regards to the school crosswalk painting and the paintwork that's gone on in our community? John, is that okay? I go directly to Dan.
Yes.
Dan? Hi, Dan. Would you like to give us an update on the painting that's been going on some of our roads?
Certainly, Your Worship. The line painting, you may recall, line painting tender was issued or awarded in June, I believe. Those crosswalks were part of the tender. However, it appears that those locations may have been missed. So I have reached out to our contractor straight away this morning and waiting a response from them on get that done ASAP. So apologize to the community, but the contractor is aware that they need to get that done, and it will be followed up on.
All right, appreciate you checking into that and confirming that will go on. Just so the public know, painting season goes on just about any season right now. So there's a lot of road painting going on. And Mr. Perot, do you have any comment about the sand storage building at the Public Works Yard? Anything further?
A little bit, Your Worship. So as was indicated before, that the structure of the coverall building, so the fabric, it lays over top of steel. And that steel has, just because of its location and what it mixes with, salt and sand, has deteriorated. So the steel is rotting or corroding, and that has caused the fabric to loosen and then get caught up in the wind and eventually tear. So we have obtained a survey of the area, and we do have some pricing on either replacing it in its current location with the current methodology, or possibly constructing something different if council chooses to move that way. So
okay,
we will be bringing both those options to council.
As part of the budget process, I presume then, is for the next budget. Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Perot. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Mr. Ferguson. All right. Again, public participation. We do encourage people, if they have questions of interest to the community through work of the township, please bring them forward. This is their opportunity to do that, and we have the public participation portal that's available for them to use that. All right, members of council, we're going to move on. We have no deputations or presentations tonight. However, there will be a public meeting scheduled at 6:30. So we've got an opportunity to move ahead in our agenda. So if council is prepared, we'll move right through to item number 7, which is the minutes of the council meetings. There are several here to go through, so I'll read them all. We'll ask for a mover and seconder on the entire package. Recommendation be it resolved, the council of the township Clearview hereby approve the minutes of the following council meetings as presented. August the 18th, a special meeting. August the 23rd, a regular meeting. August the 25th, a special meeting. And August the 30th, 2021, a special meeting. Can I have a mover and seconder on the minutes, please? Mr. Broderick, Mr. Lamers. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. That carries. The minutes are adopted. Any business arising from any of the minutes? There's 4 there. So has any councillors got any questions? No? All right, council, that's good. All right, council, moving on to item 9 is communications from the mayor. So item number 9.1 is a report from our closed session. So this is a rise and report from our closed session that we just held. And it's in regards to our appointment of, where did I put that note? Again, with too many pieces of paper here on the desk. Okay, from our council meeting, we are appointing some members of our volunteers from our community to various boards. So later on in the council meeting, there is a bylaw to appoint Len Verstraeten to the Brentwood Hall Board, Ellie Patillo, Lynn Wilkinson, Jason Spilchin, and Jim Lahid to the Dunedin Hall Board, and Mylin Beno to the Creemore Business Improvement Area Board. So council met in camera and approved these. These will be on a bylaw later on in our meeting. And again, I always want to thank our volunteers who step forward to help our community. Thank you very much for helping us out. Very good. That's my report from 9.1. And council, item 9.2 is there's an extensive resolution here that I can read. So we'll go to this and then I'll ask for a mover and seconder. This is in regards to a draft resolution regarding the municipal recognition of September the 30th as National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. So this has been distributed, and our clerk's department has attached this to our agenda for us to consider here. The motion reads, whereas the Truth and Reconciliation Commission released its final report on June 2nd, 2015, which includes 94 calls for action to redress the legacy of residential schools and advance the process of Canadian reconciliation. And whereas the recent discoveries of remains and unmarked graves across Canada have led to the increased calls for all levels of government to address the recommendations in the TRC's call to action. And whereas all Canadians and all orders of government have a role to play in reconciliation. And whereas recommendation number 80 of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission called upon the federal government in collaboration with Aboriginal peoples to establish as a statutory holiday a National Day of Truth and Reconciliation to ensure the public commemoration of the history and legacy of residential schools remains a vital component of the reconciliation process. And whereas the federal government has announced September 30th, 2021 as the first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, also known as National Orange Shirt Day, and a statutory holiday. And therefore be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview does hereby commit to recognizing September 30th, 2021 as the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, National Orange Shirt Day, by sharing the stories of residential school survivors, their families, and communities. Council, I've read the motion, and I will ask for a mover and seconder. Mr. Broderick, is there a seconder? Mr. Patterson, thank you. Is there any questions or comments as the motion has been presented? All right, yes, Mr. Lamers.
Thank you, Your Worship. Did the provincial government not recognize the statutory holiday in Ontario?
Mr. Lamers, first of all, I'll go to our staff, but if you could move your microphone down to so I could hear you a little bit better, that'd be helpful. Thanks, John. Okay, I think I could hear you there, but Madam Clerk, thank you for putting this on our agenda today. Could you help us out with a comment from Mr. Lamers regarding the provincial government's status on this?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. For you to Councillor Lamers, that's correct. Currently, it's just a federal recognized statutory holiday. It hasn't been provincially recognized as of yet, but there might be opportunity in the future for the province to do so.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members? All right. If there's no other questions, I'll give one comment, and that is later on in our agenda, Council, we have a motion to receive and go to a workshop regarding our land acknowledgement statement that, as you know, our staff and members of the public and myself, we've been working on to prepare a workshop for this community. So that is also related to truth and reconciliation. So please pay attention to that when that comes forward on our agenda in a few moments' time. Members of council, there's a mover and seconder. You've heard the extensive motion. I'll ask if there's anything further. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much, council. And again, thank you to the clerk for putting this on our agenda. Item number 9.3 is a letter from the Clearview Community Church, letter of thanks for their community grant. We want to thank them for sending in a nice little letter of thank you and appreciate the work that they do in our community. Item number 9.4 is the NVCA August 2021 board meeting highlights. If I can turn to our member representing the NVCA, Mr. Patterson, do you have any comments about the highlights? I'm sorry, you're muted there, sir. Here we go.
No, I don't. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. All right. Members of council, then, I have a resolution. Be it resolved that council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive the communications from the mayor for information. Can I have a mover and seconder on this motion? Mr. Broderick, Ms. Deneen, thank you. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Council, moving on to item number 10 is the county reports for information. Item number 10.1 is Regional Partners host collaborative event to discuss the future of food. Unfortunately, I'm not available for that, but I wanted to just see if the deputy mayor, who's also a member of county. Barry, do you have anything you want to add on that that item?
No, I did want to make mention that it is happening. The the future of field, the future of food, and it's regional partners are hosting a collaborative to get together to talk about food security and all the other things that are important to the county. I do plan to attend that particular meeting or that collaborative. And the other thing I wanted to say about county is I did attend the recent accessibility. Having a hard time getting the words out of my mouth today. Recent accessibility committee meeting as well. And other than that, it was pretty quiet at county over the last month. It was a month of not too many meetings. So that's it, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to our meeting tomorrow. We've got a pretty extensive agenda for both county council and county committee of the whole. And yes, there'll be more discussion tomorrow for sure. Yes, Barry.
And if I may add, Your Worship, and on the agenda for tomorrow is discussion about the garbage containers and the availability, geez, I can't get these words out. The availability of alternate sizes, and staff will be looking to us for direction from council to advise them. So it'll be an interesting day. But I gather it's going to be a long day. Yeah.
I gather it will be too. So I welcome the fact that we're going to have the opportunity to discuss the automated cart system once again. And also, I intend to bring up, give you a little preview, how these bins have been delivered to locations that most certainly do not need bins. I know our friends at the Creemore Echo posted a photograph of bins at a cemetery, completely unnecessary. Bins located at a church that's closed, has not had a service at the church in some 20 years, unnecessary. So I'm going to be bringing that up as part of my discussion tomorrow, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So I'm sure it'll be interesting to hear what our members of County Council have to say. All right, anything further on county reports? All right, excellent. All right, committee, we're going to move on then to our reports from community announcements, and we'll go right to our ward report now. So ward reports, we go around the table. I'm going to start with Mr. Broderick. Nice to see you, John.
Thank you, Your Worship. August the 25th, attended the special council session with the speakers from Simcoe County on affordable housing. On the 26th, attended the last Stainer market for this season. The 30th, attended the special council presentation on community halls, the AODA. And August the 31st, attended the Library Board Budget Committee meeting. September 2nd, attended the Stainer Garden Party, which actually was an awesome event. September the 8th, attended the Clearview Chamber of Commerce special meeting. And on September the 12th, took in the Clearview Chamber Committee Business Awards presentation. And I just want to say congratulations to all of the nominees, the award recipients, and indeed to all of Clearview's businesses who have managed to remain viable in these difficult times. And that is it for me, Your Worship.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Broderick. I'm going to go to Mr. McKechnie next, then Councillor Deneen, then Walker. Hello, Doug.
Thank you, Your Worship. Pretty quiet in Ward 2, number of meetings I attended, but just want to use my time here right now for a word report to, I got the latest issue of CAA magazine, and in it, our neighbors, the town of Collingwood, have been awarded the art of being bike friendly. They've been awarded the a municipality, well, a bicycle friendly municipality. I think they got a silver award in that. So good on you, Collingwood. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McKechnie. Councillor Deneen, you're next, then Councillor Walker, then I'll go to Councillor Lamers.
Thank you. I just, Connie and I, well, Connie, I'm sorry, wasn't available, but the Attainable Housing Committee subcommittee that she and I are on, we're just doing a review of all of our info. And we're going to be working on a presentation, which I understand Connie and I will be bringing to council. And just in our own little area here, a friend wanted me to mention that she's having a arts event in Ottawa for Culture Days on September 25th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's a free event. It's hosted by Laurie McDonald and her art powered pop-up is what she's calling it. She's with her studio is called Art Powered Studio. It's a free event. It's going to feature 25 artists, live music, art activities, and gourmet food. Most gourmet food I ever do is pretty much popcorn. But it's a free event, as I mentioned, and she would appreciate anyone getting the word out. And just stop by and see it. It's at, her address is, I believe, 2 McKean, or pardon me, 2 Townley Street. But it's the corner of Townley and the 3637 side road in Ottawa. And again, that's on September 25th from 10 to 5 p.m. And that's about all I've got. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much for that. One other thing I'll mention about Laurie McDonald is she's one of the organizers of the Magic of Children in the Arts art show every year and supports youth art in our community. So good for her. All right, Councillor Walker, you're next, then Councillor Lamers, then Paxson. Hello, Robert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just basically the same meetings as Councillor Broderick, the 25th special council meeting with affordable housing in the county. 26th was the last farmers market for this year. August the 30th was the last of the first round of the small halls, and round 2 will be starting whenever our staff get things put together for us with the engineering firm. Youth committee will be the first part of October. And I just want to say I had the privilege of presenting a certificate to Isabel Morby on the occasion of her 90th birthday on September the 11th. Her birthday was the 10th, but they had a family gathering on the 11th. So able to present that. And I might also add that Isabel is my aunt, by the way. So it was kind of a neat presentation to be able to make. So, and that's it, Your Worship, for me.
Well, thank you very much, and happy birthday to your end. Always happy to do that, by the way. Certificates are something that we can produce here at the township and be happy to help celebrations at any time. Okay, Councillor Lamers is next, then Patterson, and then back to the Deputy Mayor. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, it's been a fairly slow month, just a couple special meetings that we attended. Attended a meeting with Terry and Chris on the Brentwood Hall Board and the engineers and got their plans put together. Evening had their plans put together. So Terry's hard at work at starting to get the second phase going to bring back to council. So it's going to be interesting to see. That's it.
All right, thank you for that. And thank you to the volunteers that are helping you with that project. That's great stuff. Councillor Patterson, you're next, then the Deputy Mayor. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. Receiving pretty consistent calls both on the noise bylaw, not specifically the bylaw itself, but the fact that I suspect because people are closer to home with the COVID restrictions and just our plain growth in our community, that there's more and more complaints coming from after hours, particularly. So I had a couple discussions with the bylaw department of the clerk's office, and generally looking forward towards a review modernizing our noise bylaw, given the priorities of the clerk's office. On the traffic management, I think people are getting prepared, their public input, because of the council review on October the 5th. And so I've had quite a few discussions with regards to their concerns, what's appropriate, what isn't covered in our reviews, that sort of thing. So I've judged that there will be significant interest when council does review the report from our Public Works, Mr. Senton. And coming up on September the 27th, the Tree Society of Creemore, which is running a pilot survey, if you like, of existing tree stock. Hopefully and talking with Dan Perot, or hopefully we'll have our first cut at the surveys that were done in Clearview in terms of our existing tree stock, and just discussing next steps. So it's a meeting looking forward to, and like I said, September the 27th. That's my report.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. Look forward to hearing more about that. Deputy Mayor Burton, do you have anything further to add?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And just one thing I'd like to make the public aware that along with many meetings, the mayor and I pretty much talk daily. It's pretty much every day in the morning we have a chat, find out what's going on in our communities and stuff like that. So I think, people wondering, about communication and COVID, we are daily on the phone to each other. So I just thought I'd share that with the public. Also, on top of the county stuff I attended the Economic Development Committee for Clearview, and I was also there for the affordable housing seminar that was put on. And I was glad to hear that Clearview was mentioned. Me personally, that we were part of the incentive to get money available for affordable housing in smaller settlement areas. So it was glad to be recognized during that presentation. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you in the mornings. We do have regular conversations. By the way, I speak to a lot of councillors every day too, so it's really great to acknowledge that. And it is important to stay communicating. And we don't see each other that often anymore because we're meeting virtually like this, but it is great to have those conversations and stay connected to each other. Council, I'd like to just mention a couple things. First of all, about the Economic Development Committee, Barry mentioned it just a minute ago. One of the motions that came out of it right near the end of the meeting, as we were getting kind of blasted with some weather that night, right at the end, we had a discussion about asking council for a viability study for attracting accommodation to our community, meaning whether or not our community could in fact be a host for a hotel or a small hotel chain or something like that. So some direction was given to the CAO to prepare an ask of council, which would then apply some funding to do that type of thing. So you'll perhaps see that later on in another council agenda, but I just wanted to mention it here so that all members of council have that in their mind, that we're looking at that opportunity and economic development. And on economic development, I just want to acknowledge Councillor Broderick mentioned it, the Chamber of Commerce Awards. Well done. Watched the video. Was quite impressed and pleased to see the number of wonderful nominees across our community, and also very happy to see that the successful winners of the awards, are very, very good businesses in our community, and it does show that our business community is working together and trying to get through this pandemic and finding innovative ways to do their business. So I thought that the video presentation was very well done. Hats off to the people that worked behind the scenes to produce that, did a good job, and they highlighted and basically highlighted the great work of businesses in our community. So thank you for that, and it was a pleasure to be involved. I also want to mention, listen, on Saturday, I got to go to something that, I've lived in this township for a long time, and I'd never been to one of the concert events at the New Farm. And this past Saturday, I got to attend the New Farm concert. And I got to tell you, I was very, very impressed at how well organized it was, how safe it was, the COVID, screening process, the fact that everyone that attended it, you couldn't get a ticket unless you were able to state that you were vaccinated, and et cetera. And so it was a very safe event. There was excellent security there. There was really comfortable event. But what a tremendous example of how the agricultural community and farming is really important to us in Clearview, and how I thought that it was great to see some of the farm hands that were out volunteering, helping to make this event successful. It was a great fundraiser, and it was really, really an honor to be there and to see. By the way, Clearview Township was well represented there as our tents that say, made in Clearview or Clearview Township. We're all over the place there, and people certainly knew that it was held in Clearview. So congratulations to the organizers of the New Farm concert. But another great event that I also attended with members of some of our members of council, Mr. Broderick, Councillor Leishman, our CAO. We all went to the garden party that was held at the Eco Park Community Garden. What a great event that was. What a wonderful transformation over 12 months to take a weed-filled patch and turn it into a beautiful producing garden. I mean, it was impressive as anything, and a really great event. Live musicians, wonderful meal, and good to see people again. Also, another event that had good safety and security as far as COVID, protection for our community. It was really well done. So congratulations and thanks to the volunteers at the Eco Park that do a great job there, and the community garden staff. I also want to mention that the MTO tour. Myself, the CAO, our Deputy Director of Public Works, attended a tour where we had a parliamentary assistant from the Ministry of Transportation attend, as well as Ministry of Transportation staff. And they went on a tour, basically started in the town of Blue Mountains in Thornbury, came through Collingwood, went through Blue Mountains, Collingwood, over to the edge of Wasaga Beach, through parts of Clearview, and then ended basically right up at the Grey County line at County Road 95. And it was really great to be part of that. It was really good to see the mayor of the town of Blue Mountains, the mayor of Grey Highlands, the staff members that came from Collingwood, and so on, the staff from our township. And we all engaged and talked about regional traffic and traffic issues. And it was reassuring to know that both the MTO staff and the parliamentary assistant were genuinely engaged in hearing what we had to say, and could understand that while we did this tour on a Wednesday morning in September, that they could visualize and understand from our personal experiences the huge traffic volumes that we see on our roads. So it was a good discussion, and also just the beginning of working together with our neighboring municipalities. So I'm very, very pleased that we're doing that, and want to continue that relationship building, and we'll work together to solve some of these traffic issues. And I also want to mention one thing, Tom, you mentioned the noise bylaw. You're right about noise complaints. Just to remind the public, of course, noise bylaws and noise that comes from motorized vehicles, you must call the OPP. None of the municipal staff, bylaw officers have authority to detain anyone who's on a motor vehicle of any type. It's only the OPP or an actual MTO enforcement officer have the authority to pull over and detain somebody for questioning regarding any type of motorized infraction. So it's not something that we can deal with at the moment. If there's any identifiable information that can be obtained from the motor vehicles that are going by, that can contribute to an investigation that our bylaw officer can engage in. But when it comes to motorized vehicles, that is an OPP call. And I encourage the residents to remember that. Call the OPP. That's the best that they can do to deal with those type of infractions. While I support what you're saying, Councillor Patterson, that we need to review it and take a look at it, we also have to work within the restrictions of what our legislative authority is and our staff's legislative authority. I mean, our bylaw officers do not have authority to pull over and detain anybody on a motor vehicle of any type. So something to keep that in mind. Looking forward to that, however, it's always good to review. All right, members of council, if there's nothing further on our discussion of ward item reports, and we'll move on to, we have a public meeting scheduled for 6:30, so we've got a few more items we can get to. Number 12, community services. I've got a report here regarding a dog kennel, and it's CS 044-2021. I'll read the recommendation, and then perhaps we'll ask for comment from any of our staff. Oh, Rosalind Workman, nice to see you. Okay, recommendation, be it resolved, Council of the Town shall hereby one, receive report CS 044-2021 for information. Item number 2, issue the site plan approval for Louise Morgan and Mark Watmore of the establishment of a dog kennel, accessory apartment, outdoor dog play area, and parking lot for the dog kennel on a portion of subject lands as illustrated in site plan drawing 1.0, dog kennel dated September 2nd, 2020, prepared by Axel Designs. And item 3, approved bylaw number 21-92, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the site plan agreement with Louise Morgan and Mark Watmore, owners of 11323 County Road 10, Clearview. Okay, I'll move in a second here to get it on the floor, then we'll hear from Ross. Moved by Councillor Broderick, seconded by Councillor Lamers and Ms. Workman. Is there anything you'd like to add to your report?
Oh, good evening, Mayor and councillors. Nothing too much. I just wanted to remind you that we did you did approve a zoning bylaw amendment on the property to permit the kennel in July of 2020. And I've been working diligently with the owners of the property through this COVID time to try to get the site plan and get all of our approvals in place from the county, as well as getting that circulated out. And we're just happy to be bringing this forward for you and for your consideration. I'm here for any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You're right. It was 2020, September 2nd, 2020. My goodness, 12 months basically. Okay, members of council, any questions of the report or the comments from Mr. Workman? Yes, Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, just a clarification, because I realized we did do the groundwork back in July last year. At that time, did we discuss, first of all, primary ag, there's 3 categories of primary ag, the related agriculture and what's called, I forget the term, but it's on-farm operations, and it's an ability for an on-farm operator to enhance their business. I think that's the way we justified the kennel, did we not? This is a farm's primary their activity, and this dog kennel is a secondary use on the farm property.
This work.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson, and through you, Mayor Measures. So the bylaw, the zoning bylaw 0654 has its own category for kennels. And in this case, it is on prime agricultural lands. However, the property is mainly an equestrian farm, as well as it does have hay and so on. So to your point, this will be a secondary use on the property. You are correct.
But the concern I have is not setting a precedent. I mean, it often comes up what can be done on a farm and what can't be. And sometimes it's referred to as prime ag, so it's permitted. Sometimes it's related to the farm business in our area. And it should be primarily to serve the farming community. That's how zoning amendments are made, to permit commercial industrial operations. And then sometimes it's on-farm diversification. Is the word I was trying to think. And in this case, you think the planning department judged and council approved on the basis of that third category. Is that correct?
Ms. Workman?
So thank you, Councillor Patterson. Again, the bylaw actually has this zone category, and we haven't actually to date updated any policy documents to bring in those terms. So to answer your question, the zoning bylaw actually has a category for kennels, and that is how we worked through that in terms of it being it is a secondary use of that kennel, of that prime agricultural land.
Yeah, I agree with what we're doing. I guess anyone that's keeping up with this sort of thing, it implies that our intention is, when we update our zoning bylaw, that we will adopt these terms that are in the PPS and supported by OMAFRA and their guidelines.
I think you're correct. If those are things that we can certainly bring forward, and I would suggest maybe in our official plan document first, maybe in foremost as a policy document. As you know, right now the official plan does allow kennels as of right in terms of in the prime agricultural land. But you're right. Maybe that's time to start to update some of these other terminologies.
Yeah, the only reason I mentioned is just for our own protection as well, because to avoid any confusion, because we state clearly that we're following the PPS, and that's where the language comes from. But I accept your answer. Fine, thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Patterson. Thank you, Ms. Workman. Anybody else before I call the motion? All right, thank you very much, Ms. Workman, and I appreciate the questions. Members of council, you've got a mover and seconder. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. All right, 15 minutes. Okay, so council, we'll move on to CS 046-2021 subdivision agreement, Ashton Meadows, in regards to phase 1A. Nick Ainley is with us. Hello, Nick. Nice to see you again. Haven't seen you in a little while. Very good. I'm going to read the recommendation, look for a mover and seconder. Recommendation be it resolved, Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive report CS 046-2021 regarding the final approval of the Ashton Meadows Phase 1A plan of subdivision, and item 2, pass a bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a subdivision agreement with 863194 and 863195 Ontario Limited, known as the owner, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the Ashton Meadows Phase 1A plan of subdivision, which is located on lands described as 251 Margaret Street, Clearview, and legally described as Concession 2, East Part Lot 23, Registered Plan 51R35868, Parts 1, 3, and 4 to 10, firmly in the Township of Nottawasaga, now in the Township of Clearview. Mover and seconder to get this on the floor. Broderick and Walker. Thank you, gentlemen. And Nick, is there anything further you want to report? It's a pretty good report and something that we've talked about at this council quite some time. Nick.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. There's nothing too much to add, just saying that it has, I believe they received draft plan approval in 2010. Oh, sorry, apologies.
How old is he now?
He's 15, about 15 months.
There you go.
He tried to walk over to me here.
That's all right. We don't mind. It's good. I thought I had another counselor joining us here for a minute. That's all.
Sorry about that. No,
that's all right.
Mom came to save the day. No, there's not too much to add. Just saying that I believe they received draft plan approval in 2010. So this will allow them to actually proceed with their first phase, phase 1A, which is 72 units. So there's a lot of work going into it over the past, few years. So we're happy to see it move forward. It's the first step to get those first 72 units constructed.
All right. Thank you very much for that. All right. Members of council, any questions to Nick Ainley about the report? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nick. And council, you've seen the report. We've certainly talked about this project for a while. So let's vote on this motion. You've heard the report. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much, Council. Thank you, Nick. All right. And we still have a few more minutes, Council. So community improvement plan application in regards to 236 Huron Street. And so this one is just sort of around the corner from where we are. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive report CS 047 2021 for information. And item 2, approve the community improvement grant as per the Director of Community Services report CS 047 2021 for 236 Huron Street. It's the Get More Auto Service Center. Hello, Mara Burton. Let's go for a mover and seconder on this, and then we'll hear from Mara. Mr. Lamers, Ms. Deneen. Mr. Councillor Lamers, Councillor Deneen. Hello, Mara. Do you want to review this for us? Thank you. Hello.
Yes, thank you. So we do have an application here for a community improvement plan for a ground sign and for a facade sign. We did have some challenges with this one, given that it's a pretty low facade area. The bylaw doesn't allow signs on the roof, so the applicant has made it work. You can see the artwork in the application. We don't have artwork for the ground sign right now, but it'll be very similar, and it'll be a low non-backlit sign. So it will fit in nicely. There are residential properties across the street. And so I think in this case, it'll do well. This is a little bit of a light industrial area, but it does face residential. Although it's, the quality of the signage as far as it not necessarily being raised lettering, it doesn't have that in this case, whereas we do really encourage that in the guidelines for this community improvement plan, but it isn't in the downtown heritage part, and it isn't a heritage building. So I think it actually fits well with the building, and we recommend approval.
All right, thank you very much. Members of council, any questions to Mara in regards to this report and this grant process? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, Mara, for your report. Anybody, nothing further? Then I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? All right, that's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mara. I think we have time, council, to do a couple more on our regular agenda. PCR 020-2021. It's the Trails Connecting Communities 2021 proposal. Okay, so I'll read this recommendation, then I'll look for a mover and seconder. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive PCR 020-2021. It's the Trails Connecting Communities 2021 proposal. Report for information. And item 2, direct staff to work with the County of Simcoe for the improvements identified within the New Lowell Trail accessibility and upgraded surface proposal. Okay, can I have, yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Measures. You just missed a report by law enforcement regarding the DocuPet Safe and Happy Fund.
I did so. You see, I put a check mark beside it because it was on page 2 and I missed that. Tell you what, since I've already read it, I'll ask for a mover and seconder, and then we'll go back to that if that's council comfortable. Council, I've already read this this recommendation. Is there a mover and seconder on the Parks, Culture, and Recreation? Oh gosh, Mr. McKechnie and Mr. Deputy Mayor Burton. Any questions on the report? Seeing none, I will. Mr. Vachon has joined us. Any comments you'd like to add to your report, Mr. Vachon?
No, thank you, Your Worship. No, I just wanted to activate my camera. I apologize for not activating it a little earlier. I thought Clerk Hemke was going to win her case there, but I'm available for any questions, Your Worship.
Not a problem. We'll go. Thank you. Mr. McKechnie's got his card up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not a question. I just want to thank Terry and his staff for finding another project to put these funds toward, and I'm sure the people of New Lowell appreciate it, and I'm glad that the money is going to be spent there. Thanks very much.
Thank you for the comment. Anything else? Anybody else? Mr. Lamers, I see you there. All right. Terry, thank you for the report, and thank you for investigating that on behalf of council. Members of council, you've heard the report about the New Lowell Trail Accessible Upgrade Surface. Call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. And we have time to go back to DocuPet Happy Fund donation program. It's a bylaw report, so I wouldn't want to leave out our friend, Mr. Paddock. BL 007 2021. Recommendation be it resolved. The Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive report BL 007 2021 DocuPet Safe and Happy Fund Donation Program, dated September the 13th, 2021. And item 2, that council approve Allison and District Humane Society as previous recipient of the Safe and Happy Fund Donation Program. Can I have a mover and seconder, and then we'll hear from Mr. Paddock. Where are we at here? Mr. Walker, Mr. Broderick. Thank you, gentlemen. And Mr. Paddock, nice to see this report. How are you today?
Good, thank you. So the Safe and Happy Fund is a part of the DocuPet program that we're going to implement here in a few weeks. DocuPet, once tags are purchased, designer tags are purchased from DocuPet, they will donate 20% of that revenue to a local animal welfare organization. We've asked that Allison and District Humane Society be that organization just because they are the ones that we utilize for the canines in Clearview Township. They provide the pound services, so we only thought it was appropriate to appoint them as the recipient of the Safe and Happy Fund.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Is there any questions to Mr. Paddock in regards to the report? Not a thing. Okay, members of council, thank you, Joe, and thank you for your report. Members of council, I will, you've got a mover and seconder. I believe it was Walker and Broderick, so I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Given that we have 6 minutes before our meeting, I know for sure that our next item has a PowerPoint presentation that they'd like to give. I'm asking that we move past that, and we'll come back to that following the public meeting process if council's comfortable with that. So we may have a little longer to discuss that item. Item number PCR 022. This is in regards to Stayner Library landscaping. So let's, we can probably discuss that. Recommendation, be it resolved, Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive report PCR 022-2021. It's a tender approval for the Stayner Library landscaping dated September 13, 2021. And item number 2, that council approve the tender submitted by Beaumont Landscaping Inc. in the amount of $257,664 plus HST for the Stayner Library landscaping project. And item 3, that the total cost of the project be funded through the land sale reserve. Okay, a mover and seconder to put on the floor, please. Broderick, Walker, on the floor. Thank you. Any members of, yes, Mr. McKechnie. Sorry, Mr. Vachon, we'll get to you in a minute. Mr. McKechnie.
Thank you, Your Worship. So basically this, we only had the one bid come in, $250,000. You know, I'm uncomfortable spending that kind of money without more information. So I would like us to, I'd like to ask that we defer the motion to March of 2022 in order to allow it to be discussed in our 2022 budget deliberations. So.
All right, he's asking for that. Is that Deputy Mayor, are you seconding that motion? Just
I am seconding the deferral. Yes, I am.
Seconding a deferral. Okay, any debate or discussion on deferral? I think it's a fair direction that Councillor McKechnie is asking for. Yes, go ahead, Doug.
If I could just speak to it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against the landscaping. It certainly does need landscaped. I was over and had a look. It does need landscape. It's just that, you know, I would like to have a better idea of what we're getting for our money. And I think that the best that we can do is maybe talk about that during the budget deliberations. And I'm not sure whether we still spend the full $250,000 or whether we reduce the amount. But anyway, I think, you know, that's the reason why I'm asking for the deferral. So just so that nobody thinks that I don't want to see it landscaped, I do. I just think right now, with the information I have in hand, $250,000 just a little bit out of my price range. Thank you.
All right, if I can go to staff before I call this motion, Mr. CIO or Mr. Vachon, any comment about the fact that this was tendered, we only received a single tender? Is there any issue that you see that may impact the municipality negatively? Mr. Ferguson.
I'll let Terry jump in as well, but it did come in higher than anticipated. Sometimes if you tender in the spring, you might get a better deal. I'd like to keep it in mind, this is a capital project and there is money in a reserve as well. I think it's in Terry's report, if I'm not mistaken. And ultimately there is enough money to cover this, but it does appear to be a bit high. And if it's deferred, the question I asked for Terry, is March early enough to prepare if it was deferred until that time period?
Good question. I'll go right to Terry. Terry, any comments?
Thank you, Your Worship. And to respond to CAO Ferguson, I don't know. I would have to ask Burnside's that question. Top of my head, I think it would be okay, but I would have to discuss with Burnside's to find out exactly if March is okay. My best assumption at this point is that I think it would be.
If I may then, Mr. Vachon, Mr. Ferguson, given that we'd have many council meetings between now and March, you could probably bring forward a small report to update us on this if there's a concern. Is that reasonable?
It is, but when it's deferred officially, and Sasha can help, you have to defer with a date. The only thing that's really debatable is the date. And if it doesn't, we're not to come back until that point in time. That's all. That's why I was asking if it could be earlier. Maybe we should look at this in February in getting ready for March, but defer it. But we just want to make sure we get it out early enough that we get the lowest possible bids in the springtime.
If I can then go to the clerk, Madam Clerk, are you comfortable with the motion as presented and understanding that we can bring back further information to council if needed? Madam Clerk? And I see the Deputy Mayor. Go ahead, Sasha.
Thank you, Mayor Measures. I'm comfortable with the motion to defer. I was wondering if Councillor McKechnie could read out his motion again, just to make it clear what we have in the deferral. I know he said March 2022, but I see no reason for staff just to bring back information report if something else comes up.
Fair enough. Okay, stand by, Mr. McKechnie. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I'm going to suggest that actually what we're asking for is a referral. Now, a deferral means you're just deferring the decision. If we want additional information, then that is in fact a referral. And what we should be asking for is a referral, and for staff to come back with a future report and more additional information set at a specific date. Maybe Madam Clerk can help me, but I believe what we're asking for is a referral. And if Councillor McKechnie is comfortable with calling it a referral rather than a deferral, I'm happy to support that.
Mr. McKechnie, I'll go to you next. Go ahead.
I'm comfortable with that referral rather than deferral. And basically, yes, the Deputy Mayor is right. I would like to see more information. And that's why I sort of thought that maybe that information would be brought to us during budget deliberations. But yeah, I mean, if we want to call it a referral, that's fine with me.
Okay. I see. Okay. Sasha, I see you. I'm going to go to Mike Ron first because he kind of popped in here. Hi, Mike.
Hello. Thank you, Your Worship. And just for council's consideration, if this was tendered, I think you need to deal with that first and foremost. If you're not happy with the price, you're going to want to direct staff not to proceed with the tender and then provide further direction after that, right? I think the immediate concern is dealing with the actual tender.
That's why I kind of went to the clerk. So let's go to the clerk next. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Measures. So I was looking for just clarification from Councillor McKechnie on his motion, just the wording. But the Director of Public Works is correct. I believe staff just needs some direction in regards to that we are not accepting this tender at this moment, and that if we are looking to re-tender the project in the spring. So we can include that in the motion to refer as well.
How about Madam Clerk, you help McKechnie out by preparing a motion that includes those items. Can you prepare something for me, Madam Helke? Give her a moment there. Terry, just on the point that Mr. McKechnie was asking as Sasha's working, Terry, can you give us an outline about what the sort of scope of work is on this project?
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. So yeah, the scope of work that was provided was actually part of the original project, the original tender that was developed as part of the new library. The landscaping component was excluded from the tender. It was omitted. And the CAO Sage back in the day and former treasurer Edward Henley had decided to tender just that component out in the future. So what we did is we took the exact plans that were developed as part of the original architectural work and engineered work. We took that exact plan and just retendered that component out. It took a little bit of time to do that process because we had our engineer and architect working with the architect that developed the new library project. So those two groups had to finalize and talk about that, the final drawings to be tendered out. So we just took that exact same project. The landscaping, Your Worship, includes increasing the groundwork that's required on that end. There's a real big slope that's there, adding some sod, some trees, some benches, accessible pathways to both the parking area as well as the exit doorway there. Just pretty much the generic type of landscaping that's required. Yes, receiving one tender at this time, obviously has escalated the amounts. So we can, with council direction, we can always proceed in the spring.
Okay, thank you for that update. And that does sort of speak to what Councillor McKechnie was looking for, was more information. So thank you for that. Yes, go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's exactly what we need is more information. I mean, I'm just looking here. I think the public would be outraged at some of these prices, like $1,500 for a trash can, $2,000 for a bench. Maybe that's the going rate. I don't know, but I'm not prepared to spend $1,500 for a trash receptacle. So anyway, that's so yes, I would like Terry to research this further and come back to us. So, and I will wait for the clerk's motion here.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Measures. Through you to Councillor McKechnie. Please feel free to help me wordsmith. So what I've got on for the motion to refer is that the motion before council be referred back to staff for a future report with more information on costs and retendering the Stainer Library landscaping project, and that the tender submitted by Baumeyer Landscaping Inc. not be accepted.
Okay, that sounds good. Do we need an actual date that staff are going to come back to us or not? I'm in no hurry.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Through your worship to Councillor McKechnie. It's always good to have a date associated with the report so that we know that it will be coming back to council in due time.
Okay.
March. We've already said that. March. Sure. Madam Clerk, March. Deputy Mayor as seconder, I saw your thumbs up, so you're acknowledging that. Okay, council, any questions on where we're going with this? We're comfortable? All right, thank you. Whoa, we do have some questions. Okay, John and John. Okay, Mr. Broderick first.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just thinking we may want to back that up a little bit. I believe the CAO had suggested February, and I'm thinking just the time frame to prep for a project like this. It's not a small project. I just don't want us to miss the entirety of next season, or next year, I should say.
I see your point about the construction season to do landscaping work. Fair enough. Mr. McKechnie, Mr. Burton, February. You guys comfortable with that ad?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thumbs up. Madam Clerk, please acknowledge February. We're good. Mr. Lamers, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. No, I was going to ask Terry if we should have it early February to give them enough time to finish everything and the tendering process, because it takes time and you want to get it done by spring, early spring.
For sure. Planting season and all that. So that seems comfortable. Terry, you're comfortable with the direction for February?
Your Worship, like as I previously mentioned, I want to discuss it with Burnside. We rely on their expertise. They release the tender on our behalf. Again, like I said, I'm pretty sure February should be okay, but I need to discuss with Burnside to make sure they're available and they can pull that off, pull those timing dates off as well.
All right, that's great. Thank you, Councillor Lamers. Thank you, Mr. Vachon. Anybody else with any questions? All right. Starting from the top, we have a mover and seconder, Mr. McKechnie, Deputy Mayor Burton. As presented through the clerk's acknowledgement, we are asking for the motion as presented. Members of council, I'm prepared to call the motion. Those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Madam Clerk, then you can strike from the minutes the previous motion that then didn't go anywhere, right? Is that correct?
Thank you, Mayor Measures. So that motion will just show up in the minutes that it's been moved and seconded, but then the next part of the motion was that it was referred back to staff.
Roger that. All right, members of council, at 8 minutes after, we do have a public meeting. As is our public meeting procedure, we defer to the deputy mayor for these type of public meetings. And so Deputy Mayor Burton, I'm going to turn the chair over to you. Oops, you're muted there, sir. Let's make sure you're in, and then we'll go. Hang on now.
There, we're good. Okay. I had some crazy screen show up just that, trying to get back to soon. Okay, thank you, Your Worship. We will now initiate the public meeting portion of tonight's agenda. We thank everyone who provided written comments ahead of tonight's public meeting. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the Township of Clearview on an application being discussed this evening, please contact the planning person in charge of the file. This information will be provided in the presentation. As identified in the notice of public meeting, please be advised that your written comments or requests to be notified will form part of the public record. Your communication and any personal information therein will be made available to the public unless you expressly request its removal. If a person or public body does not make written submission to the township with respect to the proposed applications before a decision is made or a bylaw is passed, they are not entitled to appeal the decision to the local appeal tribunal and may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. The following public meeting will involve a brief presentation by our planning staff, including a brief explanation or written comments received, an opportunity for the applicant or their agent to present their application and respond to written comments, and the opportunity for questions by council. We will now begin the public meeting with respect to file number, bear with me, it was here a second ago, to file number 2021-031-ZB 794047 County Road 124. And I believe that Nick is available, and then I understand the applicant is doing a presentation as well. The floor is yours, Mr. Ranley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. Let me just pull up the presentation if you bear with me for 1 minute. Does everyone see my screen here?
You got it.
Excellent. Full screen. Still up?
You're still good. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Nick Ainley. I'm a planner here at the Township of Clearview, and I'm here tonight to facilitate the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment 2021-031-ZB. Just before I jump into the presentation, I'll be providing a brief overview and the presentation right now. The applicant's agent will also be providing a brief PowerPoint presentation. And I do believe we do have some commenters who did submit comments that did want to participate as well. So that said, I'll just jump into my presentation. So start off, so the subject lands are known municipally as 794047 County Road 124. So they're located in the southern boundary of the Singhampton settlement area. They're located and they front onto County Road 124. In terms of the subject lands themselves, this is just an aerial image of the property outlined in red here. So the subject lands probably support a single commercial building, including a gas pump canopy located here, and it currently has the following commercial uses, which would be the gas station, the convenience store associated with that, as well as an existing motel use in this red component of the building here. So in terms of the proposal itself, the applicant is seeking to demolish a portion of the existing commercial building. This portion contains the existing motel use, and construct a new addition to the northwest side of the structure that is to remain on the site. The addition is proposed to support a Tim Hortons restaurant, as well as associated drive-through use. An LCBO retail outlet is also proposed to be established within a portion of the existing convenience store component of the commercial building. So in terms of the zoning bylaw amendment applications that's before us tonight, the purpose of the application is to amend the zoning, subject land's current zoning, from its current highway commercial C2 zone to a highway commercial exception zone. So it would be a C2-XX or C2 exception zone. The application will revise it proposes several alterations to the following provisions of the comprehensive zoning bylaw. There's 6 in total that are currently being requested to be varied. The first one is to reduce the parking requirement on the site from 31 spaces to 23 spaces. The second is to reduce the loading space requirement from 2 loading spaces to 1 loading space. The third is to permit a loading space to encroach a maximum of 7.5 meters beyond the front wall of the main building. The fourth is to reduce the drive-through stacking lane setback requirement at the rear property line from 5 meters to 1.3 meters. The fifth request is to reduce the front yard setback from 7.5 meters to 5.7 meters in order to recognize the location of the existing gas pumps on the site. And the sixth is to reduce the front yard setback from 7.5 meters to 1.5 meters in order to recognize the location of the existing gas pump canopy on the property. So in terms of a better overview of what's currently proposed, this is just a snapshot of the site plan that's also submitted. I tried to do a bit of color coordination. So as you can see, the subject lands are outlined in red here. The existing structure is outlined in yellow, orange color here, as well as the red. So the applicant is seeking to demolish the existing portion that's outlined in red and then construct the new addition, which is in purple. So the new addition is to house the proposed Tim Hortons as well as drive-through component. And then you can see in green here, this is just the proposed drive-through lane located at the rear of the property. So you have County Road 124 here, and the 2 existing entrances to the site. In terms of policy frameworks, the Township of Cleveland's official plan currently designates the subject lands as commercial. And as I indicated before, the subjects is currently zoned as highway commercial or C2 zone within the Township of Cleveland zoning bylaw. To note, the subject lands are also partially regulated by the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority. In terms of notice and circulation, so notice of the subject zoning bylaw amendment was given in accordance with the Planning Act. This was completed on August 24th, 2001. This was done via mailing to all adjacent properties in the 120 meters of the subject site, as well as posting a sign on the property. The details of the application and supporting materials have been made available to the public. They are available on our website and have also been circulated to relevant commenting agencies for review, consideration, and comment. And this is just a little snippet of the circulation map. So you can see that all properties in 120 meters have been circulated with the notice. All the ones in yellow would be the ones that are located in Clearview that were circulated. And because the property abuts the municipality of Grey Highlands, all the properties outlined in green here were also circulating in Grey Highlands. So in terms of public comments, we did receive 3 formal comments with respect to the notification period. They were quite thorough, which is a good thing for us. However, it will be a little bit hard to read verbatim, so I'll try and summarize as best as possible. The first 2 comments were from Judy Ferguson, or son Chris Ferguson. So they're adjacent property owners. So they started off indicating that while they do not oppose the proposed commercial use on the site, they do have some concerns with the proposal as it currently stands. So the key priority that they note is that protecting farmlands and their ability to farm their property, which is located immediately adjacent to the site. They note that they currently farm right up to the property line and have specific concerns with respect to reducing the setback from the drive-through stacking lane from 5 meters to 1.3. And they basically note concerns similar to noise, not only from noise from the drive-through to their residential use, which is located approximately 90 meters away, also potential noise impacts from their large equipment and farming operation against the drive-through use. They note concerns with drainage, snow storage, and snow melt on the site. So they want to ensure that all drainage is captured on the property. In particular with snow melting, considering it does contain salt, they're concerned with possible drainage on their property and soil contamination. Garbage, so they have noted issues with existing garbage issues of blowing garbage, dog waste, things like that on their property currently, and they're concerned that this will exacerbate it as well. They're curious about the operation hours as well as lighting in terms of impact to their existing residential use on their property. They note traffic safety concerns such as traffic flow, the number of movements in and out of the site, as well as has their property been factored into it, given that their entry to their property is located in close to it. And not only does used for their residential use, but they also bring large farm equipment in and out of the site. They note that a snowmobile club also uses their field to access the site via the east of the property, and no concerns whether this has been reviewed as part of the traffic review. And those are pretty much, that's the general summary that we have so far. Additional comment was received from a Gary Lipset. He's also an adjacent property owner. He noted traffic concerns with respect to speed on County Road 124, parking on County Road 124, curbs and ingress and egress to the property. Recommends that they should be paved to avoid drivers going to the ditch. Paved shoulders to reduce dust impact, as well as replacement of culverts or inspection of culverts there. He noted similar concerns with garbage and noted fuel storage and leakage, as well as checking of water wells in the adjacent area, as well as the removal of the old septic system from the property. And he noted that the clearing out of the ditch, existing ditch, should occur to make sure that it flows correctly. So I just want to know before I move on that these comments were circulated to council for review, and they will be the full comments will be appended to my future report, recommendation report coming back. I just wanted to note that. So those are all the comments that we received. And I understand that several of the commenters are participating later on, so hopefully they can fill in any additional components that I may have missed from them. So in terms of contact information, if anyone does have any more questions or would like to get in contact with me about the application, here's my contact information for the township. In terms of overall review process, tonight is the public meeting to gain input from public members, from council members as well. Staff will consider all comments that are received moving forward, and then following that, staff will provide a recommendation report to council. Council can choose to approve or deny, and then following that decision, there is an appeal period of 20 days. And if no appeal is received, the application comes into full force and effect. So that concludes the component of my presentation for tonight. I believe that the applicant does have a presentation to bring up as well, so I'll be available to answer any questions that come forward. But I will pass it off to Christine Loft, the applicant's planning agent.
Hello, Christine. Yes, you're here. Okay, Christine. Yes, please go ahead with your presentation. You're muted.
Thank you. Good evening, Deputy Mayor Burton, council and staff. I believe John Proctor is also on the call with me tonight from Crozier Engineering, and completed the engineering submission on behalf of the development. So I do have a PowerPoint to present. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I'll try and zip through these first few slides fairly quickly because Nick's already covered them off, but the property is 794047 County Road 124. The application will facilitate an addition to an existing gas station and convenience store structure for the establishment of a drive-through restaurant. An LCBO outlet will also be introduced within the convenience store portion of the structure. Next slide. So the property is located on the east side of County Road 124 on the southern boundary of Singhampton, between the Clearview Fire Station and Gray Road 4. The subject lands comprise a rectangular parcel of land. Lot area is 5,375 square meters and a frontage of 137 meters along County Road 124. Surrounding lands are the fire station and natural areas to the north, rural residential and agricultural to the west, and rural residential and agriculture to the south and east. Next slide. So the property is designated commercial and it is zoned highway commercial C2 in your zoning bylaw amendment. There were, the exceptions are listed below. Those exceptions are a result now of 2 submissions of the site plan and review by staff. So there has been some movement in these exceptions since we had first applied. And just, I would just note that the proposal is asking for the first 4 exceptions to facilitate the development, and the 2 exceptions regarding the gas pump setbacks. We're obviously recognizing the existing situation, and there is an agreement with the county already with respect to the encroachments for the gas canopy, and the county has commented as part of the circulation. Next slide. So I think Nick gave a good colored view of the plan and the existing structure and proposed structure. But the red portion then will be the overall new structure, which is the addition in the northeast corner, and then a portion of the existing building. So the drive-through will be located on the northeast corner of the structure. The facility will now have no indoor dining or seating areas and will operate primarily as a drive-through. Patrons can walk into the convenience store area and purchase over a counter for the Tim Hortons use. Cars will enter the drive-through aisle on the south side of the building, and the drive-through aisle will extend along the rear of the building and swing left around the building to the window on the north side. And the vehicles will then exit on the north side of the building. The convenience store will occupy approximately 230 square meters of the building and will include the convenience store, a pay counter for the gas station, as well as a new LCBO outlet within the store area. Customer washrooms will be included on that south side of the building as well. The Ultramar gas station will remain the same with no proposed exterior changes. There will also be 2 offices and a storage room proposed just on the south side of the building, which will just be for the owner's use. Next slide. And I just wanted to point out a few, I think, site plan changes that will take place. So parking will be a total of 23 parking spaces with 2 accessible spaces. Existing parking spaces will remain along the front portion of the building, and there will be additional parking then on the south side of the building. There will be 2 entrances which exist today that will also be utilized. The drive-through will have a total of 12 spaces within the stacking lane, and the stacking lane enters through the south parking area and follows along the rear of the building. Landscape areas will be proposed, and a landscape plan was provided as part of the complete submission. There are snow storage areas on site. There's a snow storage area in the southwest corner, as well as just north of the north entrance. The refuse and loading areas are proposed on the north side of the property, close to the Tim Hortons drive-through area. And the loading area is also located at this north portion. And there is an exception being requested as the loading space will be in front of the main face wall of the building, but is the best location for the loading space for the Tim Hortons facility. Next slide. So there were some comments in some of the ratepayer letters just asking questions about whether certain things had been reviewed. So I did want to just provide the list of technical studies that were submitted as part of a complete submission. So that did include a landscape plan, the building elevations, a planning report, stormwater management report, grading and drainage plan, a sediment and erosion control plan, servicing plan, septic design, traffic impact study, geotechnical report, a hydrogeological impact study, as well as a parking justification study. Next slide. So in my opinion, the proposal is consistent with provincial policy, conforms to the growth plan, as well as the County of Simcoe and Township of Clearview official plan, and the proposed application complies with the zoning bylaw amendment as amended. I would like to add that we have had an opportunity to review the ratepayer comments, and so we will be working with staff on providing comments on that, and if there's any proposed changes that we can make to address the ratepayer comments. Specifically, I think with the adjacent Ferguson farm, there's certainly some ability for additional landscaping or fencing along that east lot line that would be adjacent to the drive-through that would hopefully satisfy their concerns. I also spoke to the owner, JKI Utilities, and they did confirm with me that they don't use salt on the property at all, which was one of their concerns about salt entering into their agricultural fields, and that the drive-through portion is plowed in winter months. And there was also a question about the hours of operation. So I thought I would just present that now. So that Monday to Friday, the hours would be 5:30 a.m. to 10 p.m., Saturdays, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Sundays, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Overall, we feel that this will create a more suitable and improved site plan. In particular, there will be a new septic system, which I know was in one of the ratepayer comments, questions about the septic, as well as a new oil grit separator will be installed as well. So certainly, as part of this development, the site plan will be improved, and the functionality of the site and drive-through and access points hopefully will be better as a result of this upgraded design. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. If you could, perfect, then I get a full screen. Is there any member of council that has some questions? Councillor Lamers, then Councillor Clerk. Yes, Madam Clerk, you wanted to say something?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. I believe before we get any questions from council, we should let the public participants come into the meeting first and then entertain questions from council.
Okay, I wasn't aware that we had public participants. I thought the letter's written, so by all means, you can bring in. Can you just advise me who they are at the time as they come into the meeting?
Thank you. Yes, Deputy Mayor Burton, we have 3 members of the public waiting to make oral submissions on the application. The first is Gary Lipsett. I'm just promoting him from the waiting room, and then he can address council. So just bear with me. Gary, you can turn on your screen and you can address council. Mr. Lipsett, you're in the public meeting as a public participant. Do you wish to speak to the application? Gary's in the meeting. If he does wish to speak, he can. I would suggest that we move on to the next public submissions that would like to make an oral submission. So next is Chris and Judy Ferguson. I'm just promoting them from a panelist. Chris and Judy, you guys are in the public meeting. You can address council and turn on your camera.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Oh, you can now. Yes, can you turn on your camera, please, Chris? Perfect. Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. So please go ahead with your comments and any questions you may have.
Do you want to go ahead first?
Okay, I'll go first. My name is Judy Ferguson. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm the owner of the agriculture land, which is east of the commercial site that we're discussing this evening. The setback from 5 meters to 1.4 is of concern to us because of the agricultural practices that will be carried on. Having the public being served food within 1.3 meters of dust from harvesters or, spray and fertilization, I'm sure there are going to be all kinds of nuisance complaints. I'm not sure that I want a hamburger or a whatever served to me within 1.3 meters of a combine going by. And the FFPPA allows farmers to farm right up to their property lot. So the property line, there's going to be some concerns there. There is a cedar hedge, which is a natural buffer zone right now. It's approximately 10 to 12 feet wide and approximately 25 feet high, which provides a super buffer between the agricultural land and the commercial property. My concerns are that during construction for this drive-through, it will be permanently damaged. And although there is no salt being used on the property at this time, I'm pretty sure that there will be an alternative used during the winter months. We are at the top of the escarpment. Maybe they won't use salt, but there will be salt droppings off vehicles as they proceed through the drive-through. And there will be sand. And I know that the snow plowing which goes on has been snow blowing, which has also impacted this hedge in the past. So yes, they may blow this or plow the snow, but there has been snow blowing, which has been directed right to that hedge. So I'm concerned about that. And I'm also very concerned about the snow storage that is being piled right on the property line. So you're going to get salt, sand, whatever. And yes, I know that there's going to be a very complex drainage system, but it is not going to take all of that snow melt in the spring into the system. There is going to be snow melt onto the farm property. So I'm very concerned about soil contamination, surface contamination. In Mr. Lipsett's comments that were read previously, he's correct. The municipal drain should be reconstructed so that there's a natural flow and fall to the Mad River to get this snow packed. And you are at the top of the escarpment. There's going to be a lot of snow piled up, and I would prefer that it's not piled up right at the edge of our property. So that is a definite concern. Also of concern is the garbage. Bagfuls of trash litter the fields. Bags of trash are gathered every spring, and they have to be before the crops start to grow. Honestly, JKI will never win an award for being a responsible neighbor of the year award. They will not. The drive-through will only increase the amount of garbage. It's a health concern, and it's annoying, very annoying. And the neighbors, it's not just us, it's the whole entire neighborhood. Traffic, if you've read my comments, it's hugely important. There's a hill to the south of this commercial site, which is of considerable grade. Gravel trucks going to the quarry, come through at terrific speeds. There's a 50-kilometer speed zone, but it doesn't start until the very bottom of the hill, within a very short distance of the commercial site and the farm laneway. So that poses a terrific safety concern. And I would recommend, or I encourage, that all people who are involved in the decision-making visit this property on site. It looks great. Everything looks great on paper, but I would certainly appreciate it if you've got a firsthand knowledge of the site. And I don't know whether it's possible or not, but I have a couple of pictures here. I don't know whether you can pick them up on, can you see that?
You got to hold it up a little bit higher. There, yes.
All right, so this is showing the traffic. It was midweek, just, it wasn't planned or anything, just happened to be a lot of traffic that day. But if you look closely, you can see the 50 zone almost at the bottom of the hill. And there's a vehicle pulling out. That vehicle is coming out of the north entrance of the commercial site. It's not even at the southern entrance. And the southern entrance is right beside the entrance to the farm. So there are safety issues concerned there. And you can see the number of vehicles that are using that traffic, or using the road, sorry. Also, in this one, if you can see a little red box at the back of the property, that is the generator, which is going to be taken away, refurbished, and replaced. And the drive-through goes between that generator and the cedar hedge. So there is that the 1.3 setback is of genuine concern. So Thank you. This is, can you see this one? This is the hedge, which absolutely blocks the view of the commercial site from the farm. It would be a shame to have it destroyed during construction or snow removal. And yeah, so another one. This shows the grade of the hill and the drainage that is of concern. The culverts, as Mr. Lipset said, are not adequate. The ditch is not adequate. And if they were improved, then there possibly would not be a need for the storage pond, which is to be situated by a private entrance. It will be an eyesore. It will fill with cattails. It will be very unwelcomed. Yes, it's going to be at the back of the commercial site, but it's right in front of a farm, right beside the main entrance to farm. And I just think that's so inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ferguson, did you have anything to add?
Thank you very much. I pretty much have all the same things as my mom here. The first thing I have is the 1.3 meter setback, the same as my mom. It's a little concerning as far as my farming practices go. As everybody knows, during farming season, you're spreading fertilizer, spraying crops, creating dust, and the hedge, I guess, is like my mom said, it's a great buffer for dust and noise and everything like that. So just kind of wondering what your plans were, or what their plans were, whether they need to take part of the hedge out, leave the hedge.
So, okay. Does the applicant or their agent want to respond to some of these comments?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's Christine. I think so. John Proctor and I did have an opportunity to speak earlier today and to go through the comments, and so I think we'd like to take some time to look at the plans and see what can be done along the east lot line. I do understand that the hedge is likely on the Ferguson property, so that JKI doesn't actually own the hedge. So we'll take that into consideration, and then whether any additional, whether it's softscape landscaping or whether a fence might provide a better buffer along that east lot line, we would look at that, and we could propose an amended drawing that would identify that, and staff could share that with the Fergusons once we provide that. I don't know if John has any comments on any of the the comments that were made on snow storage.
Mr. Proctor, do you have anything to add?
Thank you. Yes, I think with the snow storage, the majority of the snow storage along that southeast corner is proposed to take place in sort of a depressed pond type area. Just to be clear on the stormwater design, we're adding a series of catch basins, storm pipes, and a treatment OGS at the downstream end to the system. The pond that is there will not normally be filled with water. The pipes below the ground and the catch basin structures are set at a lower grade. And essentially, if we get, a very high, a large storm, the 25-year, the 50-year, the 100-year storm, the pond will be used in those instances to hold the water. But the intent of the pond is not to be wet on a daily basis. So when the snow is in there in the your non-seasonal, winter conditions, and then it melts in the spring, it'll drain through that stormwater system, which is the intent of it. So hopefully, that hopefully it helps alleviate some of the concerns. I do appreciate your concerns, and we can noting I'm looking at the survey here, and it does show the hedge being on the Ferguson property. So there would be no reason for us to go onto that property to affect it during construction. There would be, typical construction fencing set up to delineate those areas, and we understand that is a priority area. So we can definitely look at those measures to ensure that, there's adequate protection of that, because I do appreciate your concern for that.
Okay, thank you. So we do have other candidates who want to speak. Unless you have something to add, Mr. Ferguson.
Yep, I just had a few other things. Obviously, the garbage issue and stuff like that, like my mom said. In a traffic study, I noticed in here you guys had in your study report, it was mentioned of that Highway 24 in the future being widened. Would that have anything to do with accommodating for a turning lane into the property, or?
Who would like to respond to that, Christine? Or go ahead, Mr. Proctor.
Yes, I don't believe the turning lane or the need to widen is a direct result of this development. I believe it's something the county has identified, and they've asked, as we go through the planning application, and Christine can correct me if I'm wrong, but to take that land for a future widening to ensure, as they go through the process, just for their future planning. But my understanding is it's not related to this development. It's a larger initiative that the county is taking.
And I just make comment, being on county council as well, standard procedure when bylaws and zoning is changed, it's the county automatically wants to assume extra property for widening. It's a standard procedure, standard protocol. So doesn't mean it's going to happen. They just do it so that they basically so they don't have to forcibly take land. Put it that way. So,
sure.
Okay. Go ahead. You had another question. Yes.
Just one last thing. The word exception for the zoning amendment. Just wondering if I can get clarification on that around the word exception.
Nick, I think we'll call on you for that.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much, Deputy Burton. So in terms of this exception, so it will remain as a C2 zone, so highway commercial. So in terms of the proposed uses, none of the uses, there'll be no uses additional uses that will be approved through this. The exception basically means that those 6 noted changes, those are the exceptions that is noting. So it'll be a C2 dash, and eventually a number will be granted to it, likely a C2 dash, say 6. And then it would note all the existing uses be permitted. And then these would be the 6 additional revisions or amendments. But no additional uses beyond what's currently permitted would be allowed beyond that, unless they came forward with another zoning bylaw amendment at a future date.
Thanks. Okay, may we move on?
Just one point.
Yes.
I'm concerned about the grade level of the commercial site. It is about 2 feet higher than the agricultural land. And so what happens if this complex drainage system malfunctions?
Yeah, Mr. Proctor.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor, we've incorporated provisions into this drainage system. We have located. We have heard the concern through the township about drainage, kind of at the corner of the drive-through where it bends. So a storm inlet has been provided in that area. We've specified backflow protection on that invert, so that ideally, water can flow off of the field and into the storm sewer system, but not from the storm sewer system into your lands. So that's typically provided by a backflow protection valve that would be installed, within the manhole and pipe structure to help protect your property. And I know, that there is a concern about drainage from the property. The part of the stormwater management study that we looked at was, what proportion of the current site drains to the field in existing conditions, because I believe the back portion of behind the motel does kind of fall off to that way. There's really no drainage route to get that water around to the front of the site. So, there is still, a small buffer along the property line, which is, existing grassed area, which can contribute, but we've done our best to reduce that drainage to, not impact the field, and ideally to get everything to the stormwater management system and out to County Road 124 to the ditch where, the water, is least affecting anyone once it gets into the ditch. So.
Thank you for that. Okay. One more. Okay, I'm going to cut you off. This is going to be the last comment, and because we do have others that want to make comment. So please, yes.
Well, this dry storage pond, how will it be maintained to make sure that there is no swale growth, no cattails, so that it does not become a frog pond?
Mr. Proctor.
So as I mentioned before, the water levels in the pond is expected to be only on a temporary basis, and it will drain relatively quickly. So we don't anticipate, standing water in there that would, allow frogs or, cattails to grow. I think for those types of species, you're typically looking at prolonged periods of having standing water. So, you may see water for a matter of hours after a storm, that I have very heavy storm, that would be in the pond, but it would drain through into the ditch. So we're hoping with that measure, and noting that, it would be constructed in an area that, doesn't naturally have a groundwater upwelling or anything of that nature. It's, a dry area now. We're not anticipating, any cattails, or it's not naturally going to become a marsh.
Okay, I thank you, Chris and Judy Ferguson, for your comments, and you'll be notified of any decisions that are made. There's no decisions being made tonight. That staff have to come back with a report, and then council will look at that. So in the meantime, if any additional questions come up, you are certainly free to contact our staff, to contact Mr. Ainley and ask him, and through him over to Christine Loft or John Proctor can answer any additional questions. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, I believe we had another party.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. I think we should provide Gary another opportunity to join the public session. He is as a participant, so I'm going to ask Mr. Lipsett, do you want to address council at this time? I don't believe Mr. Lipsett wants to address council. I know he did provide written comments to Mr. Ainley.
Oh, there he is. He just showed up. Mr. Lipsett, if you want to make a comment, you're welcome to, but you'll have to unmute yourself. You're still muted.
There.
Okay. Please proceed.
Okay, I put in a bunch of stuff that your guy didn't say anything. First of all, let's start with the water to the ditch. No water flows on the east side to the ditch because we have a small culvert when the fire hall was built back in 1995 that they've not removed because there is a existing hydro pole. So no water then flows to the ditch. This water is then flows across backwards through the culvert to my place. And about 12 years ago, we got hit with gasoline or benzene, and then we had a big study. Matter of fact, part of the thing was I was at your council and we did some of the stuff there, and then we went over to Simcoe County to do. So therefore, it's already happened. I would like to see, because of that, I would like to see an ongoing report and study to make sure that they test the water for gasoline. If they're going to be taking that much water out of the thing for Tim Hortons, they need to test, because I don't believe the tanks are properly been installed. They were little sidestepped a lot of things there from the previous owner, as well as your culverts at the main road. On a weekend, he extended both of them, and I'm not sure if he put the same size culvert in or he just shoved something smaller inside. So those culverts are not what was there originally. So they are extended so he can do. Otherwise, we have had many vehicles parked in the ditches at that site because of the snow, and it gets flat straight across. Nobody knows. We even had one of the Clearview plows in there, and they had to have it pulled out. So those are some of the concerns. That's why I'm asking for curbs all the way around. Also, by moving out where you're going to put your storage, you will not be able to maintain a 53-foot trailer. We do have trailers come in, and they normally have to park along the sides as it is now. And most times in the long weekends, that parking lot, which is supposed to have less site places to park is jam packed. If you put a 53-foot trailer on the north side, then that would block that whole side from being used to be unloaded. I consider that would be a problem. Other things that I have been looking at and thinking about over the day is the fire hall usage. When we get a Tim Hortons in there, people from the city will be parking in the fire hall. I've been on the fire hall. Well, I'm retired now, but I was on for 26 years. Unbelievable amount of people parked there. But when you have a Tim Hortons, people from the city will just assume that is a perfect spot to park, leave your vehicle and walk over to the store. Also, they keep saying about getting the LCBO. The LCBO is already there. It's in existence. They've used up pretty well all the space inside for LCBO, very little for convenience. So, and then the other thing I have is the owners are living on site. Are these offices or are these living space?
Is that your comments then, sir?
That would be most of my comments, yes. I'd also like to see you guys, see a site and look around and we can walk you through. Right now, I am taking the brunt of all the water from that side. And if you put that catch basin in there like that, what he wants, we have all kinds of springs throughout the whole area. If that thing is too deep, it'll just be full of water all the time.
Would the agent, any of the agents like to comment, respond to the comments from Mr. Lipset? Christine, yes, go ahead.
I guess we'd like to discuss these. I'll discuss these with John tomorrow. We'll go through your letter and then we would provide a response in writing to staff.
Right, okay, thank you. Anything you wanted to add, Mr. Proctor?
No, I don't have too much to elaborate at this point in time. I would note that, we are, the site plan does contemplate signage along the frontage of the development to ensure, there is a concern about, big trucks and things like that, that, those would not be permitted uses on the site to have someone come in and cause an issue on the site. So. Thank you.
And I can assure you, Mr. Lipset, that Mr. Ainley is making all these notes, and he will follow up with Mr. Proctor and Christine Loft to assure that they come up with some type of answer. And as I explained to the others, you're welcome to stay in contact with Mr. Ainley and his response. And we haven't seen the final report yet. Council will not see the final report for a while yet, especially considering. So, as I said, no discussion is happening. No decision is happening tonight.
Yes, and I put in, I'd like to see the speed limit reduced. That's a county would have to deal with that. So, and which county, I'm not sure whether it's Gray or Simcoe, because we are on the split there. They all fight over who wants to do stuff, and it's been like that forever. So we'd like to see it reduced. And a turn lane would be a bonus. And also, just so to let you know, is we have new owners into the property and behind my place. I'm not sure that is a street that's not been opened or goes down beside my place. If they decide to do any kind of subdivision or anything, that would also need to be thought of in the future, because they will be coming out almost adjacent to the one turn lane or one of their lanes into the property.
Thank you for your input. It's much appreciated. Clerk, Madam Clerk, do we have any other people on the list to participate, or can I go to council now?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. That's all the members of the public who wish to make an oral submission during tonight's public meeting.
Right. Okay, I thank you for your concern, Mr. Lipset. Okay, council, any members of council have any questions or comments? Your worship, you're first up.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. You're doing a great job hosting the meeting and chairing the meeting. I would just like to add one comment to Mr. Lipset. I've made a note here about the speed change on 124 and also in the neighborhood of Gray Road 4. Perhaps the deputy mayor and I can assist and see what we can ask for that. Obviously, it would be outside of the responsibility of the applicant here, but certainly speed is a concern, and as county representatives, we can do our part to share that with members of the county engineering. So that's my comment there on that, and I look forward to seeing the full report that our staff would produce on this, as there's some pretty good information there in regards to what this community needs to do to protect agriculture, as well as to provide a service to the community that's certainly something that's needed. So that's all my comments right now. Mr. Chair, back to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor McKechnie, I believe you had your card up.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've got about 5 points, but I just want to ask 2 quick questions, and then I would like to come back to my points after a few other councillors have spoken. So the 2 quick questions I have are for Nick. Nick, I'm not sure if I understood you correctly. Did you say the comments were circulated or comments will be circulated from the public? Because have they already been circulated? Because I haven't seen them.
They should have been, I have to confirm with the clerk, Councilor McKechnie, but they should have been circulated to council members prior to tonight's meeting. I'll have to confirm if that was the case, but if not, they will be appended to my report, or we can provide them to you subsequently.
All right. Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Actually, I'm going to ask Madam Clerk to respond to that. Councillor McKechnie. Yes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. Through you to Councillor McKechnie. It's the planning technician that usually circulates the written comments for any planning public meeting. So it's not the clerk's department. It is the planning department that will circulate that before a meeting.
Okay. Anyway.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But bottom line is we don't have them yet. So yes, Nick, can you send them out? Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And also to Mr. Lipsett's property, where is that? Is that the property across the road?
Nick, could you respond?
Apologies. I'll have to double check and see. I know he's an adjacent property owner. I don't have the exact location up on my mapping at this moment. Perhaps, I guess Mr. Lipstick's not there currently. If you give me 1 second, I can look that up for you.
Okay. I'll tell you what, Deputy Mayor, please let the other councillors go ahead, and I'll come back with my questions.
Okay, I see Councillor Broderick, and I believe Councillor Deneen was first, though, before Councillor Broderick. Councillor Deneen.
Thank you. Through yourself to Nick, are we able to, at very least, even mandate a fence at the back in front of, like near their property, and alleviate maybe people walking their dogs there, like putting where their septic is, maybe putting a couple of picnic tables for a dog park or something over that way, just to keep people over to that side of the property?
Yeah, so through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Deneen, so the Township Zoning Bylaw does have requirements for landscaping and buffering requirements. However, given that the subject lands are adjacent to an agricultural use, they typically are only required if the subject property, the residential use on the property, such as the house, is located within 30 meters of the subject lands, whereas in this case, it's located outside of that, approximately 90 meters. So technically, our bylaw does not, the landscaping requirements don't kick in terms of that type of buffering. However, there's nothing to stopping the applicants from including it on a pending submission.
And just one more thing, please. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're giving us the hours of operation, but we have no bearing on that. They can change that without notice, can they not? On their own volition?
Typically, yes, we do. We will be entering a site plan agreement. So if there are hours of operation that we would like to restrict them to, we can put that into the agreement, and obviously in discussion with the applicants themselves to ensure that, they are stated and that's what they'd be maintained on. If they want to change in the future, they'd have to come back to do an amendment or an addendum to the site plan, the pending site plan agreement.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I was just going to answer Councillor McKechnie's question. Mr. Lipsett is directly across the road to the west of the site.
So does that mean he's in Grey County then? Is he?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay, were there any other questions from council? Yes, Councillor Lamers.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, as Chris and Judy Ferguson alluded to, on Christine's first graft of the property, there's a nice cedar hedge back there. There's a nice cedar hedge back there, and you're working with what, 9-10 feet? They got to be very careful that they don't touch any of those roots. They're going to start killing those trees very easily. And that's too nice. And that's too nice of a barrier to miss. And there's a gap in the trees on the east side that they should be looking at filling in. And also a barrier fence to stop all the garbage and everything going across. And then there was, somebody mentioned about the pond, the drainage pond. There's going to be salt and sand sediment in that pond that can virtually leach out into the farmers' fields that they have to be very careful of.
I don't know if that requires those were comments rather than questions, I gather, Councillor Lamers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And I believe Councillor McKechnie, no, well, hang on, Councillor McKechnie. Councillor Walker just stuck his card up there. Go ahead, Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a couple of quick questions with regards to the parking. I see, according to the map I have here, you have the parking on both sides of your entranceway into your drive-through. Do you feel that that is a bit of a concern to those patrons parked safety-wise, getting in and out? I've been involved by going into some of these that have parking on both sides of an entrance into a drive-through, and it's a total nightmare for everybody involved, trying to the drive-through people trying to get through, as well as the people coming out of the business trying to get out. So I'm wondering if that has been looked at, if there were other measures or alternatives looked at with regards to that. And just an idea quickly, number of stacking vehicles in your drive-through lane. What the stacking number there? Do you have any idea?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Proctor.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Burton. Yeah, so from a stacking perspective, as currently shown, the site plan shows 12 cars stacking behind the delivery window for the drive-through, prior to any stacking back into the parking lot, into the spaces that you've acknowledged. What we've done to accommodate in the parking lot is we've provided an extra wide lane where you have a drive-through, potentially, cars entering the drive-through, and we've proposed line paintings to direct where the cars are to start stacking. So typically you'd have a 6 to 7 meter lane between parking stalls. We've provided a 9.5 meter lane. So in essence, there's an extra space. We've also designated the 3 spaces just to the west of the pond, which are probably the most difficult to get out of if you have parking there as employee staff parking, with the intention that the staff would park there. They'd be there for an 8-hour shift, and you wouldn't have the in and out traffic that you'd have on the others. So we've tried to accommodate stacking and parking, because we understand it's a big concern at sites like this, and we've tried to incorporate those measures to ensure the site functions as optimally as possible.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Okay, Councillor McKechnie, go before somebody else sticks up their hand.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, yeah. So basically, the others have sort of have spoken to what I wanted to talk about. My concern is that I went out there to the property, and yes, that's a beautiful cedar hedge. And, I stand there, and I'm not an engineer. I'll defer to Mr. Proctor on this, but I'm not an engineer. But I look at it, and I stood on the Ferguson's farm property, and it's got to be a, you know, a foot and a half or whatever below the commercial property. And I'm just sort of thinking, you know, like, to my mind, water's going to run downhill. And even though there's not going to be any salt on that stacking lane, there's going to be salt on vehicles. You know, I don't know whether they're going to treat it with urea or whatever, but I don't know. To my mind, there's going to be runoff onto Mr. Ferguson's field. So my question to Mr. Proctor is, you said you've got sort of storm drains and everything. How confident are you that you can mitigate that? Are you 100% confident that you can mitigate any drainage going on to the Ferguson's field?
Go ahead, Mr.
Yep, thank you. In response to that, so on the drive-through lane, I think it's important to note that what we've proposed there is a curbed drive-through lane. So there'll be a 6-inch, your standard barrier curb that you see in commercial developments, okay. Which will help contain, salt and runoff that comes from the drive-through. That runoff is directed to storm catch basins that will be installed there, which will be hard piped to the stormwater system and out to the ditch through the treatment system. So with the idea being that, any sand or salt that gets off of the cars that gets into the storm sewer system is ultimately treated in the oil grit separator downstream. So that's, as reasonably confident as we can be that, we're not going to have those discharges. We're not having a situation where, that could just, go over the lip of the grass and go there. You've got a substantial buffer with that 6-inch curb.
Okay, thank you. And secondly, I've got one other question here. That 1.3 meter setback rather than 5 meters, I look at that property line there, and I just went over and I just had a look at where a couple of stakes were, and it seemed to me that the trunks of the trees were pretty much on the property line, and those cedar trees are beautiful trees. And they have to extend, the branches have to extend out, like a couple of meters or 1.5 meters, something like that. So I'm thinking they're going to be pretty much right out to the stacking lane. Anyone that's in that lane that's going to open their door are going to be right into the trees. And if you're planning on putting up a fence along there, if you're going to put the fence up on the west side of the trees, so on the commercial side of the trees, I mean, there's really no room to do that without affecting the trees. Those trees also are going to be a natural collector of garbage and such. So are you fairly confident, Mr. Proctor, that you can put in the stacking lane there without damaging those trees? How confident are you on that?
Go ahead, Mr. Proctor.
Great, thank you. I believe the primary consideration for trees, and through my experience, I'm not a landscape architect, but we do have those services in-house that we can consult on these matters. Typically, the extent of the root zones on the trees is roughly equal to the overhang of the branches, the drip line of the branches. That drip line is picked up on our survey, so we have that ability to work with that within it. I will note that there is a grade change around the corner of the drive-through. There's also a portion of the curb that is proposed to be constructed as what we call a toe wall. So it's a quasi-engineering, the curb basically extends down further on one side so that you can make up some grade differential. To keep the grade, so we're not altering the grade adjacent to the cedars. So that has been incorporated into the design to date. But we do hear the importance of these trees for the buffering and the functioning, and we'll be committed to working with town staff to make sure that we can address any of those concerns that were raised by the Fergusons, as well as yourself, Mr. McKechnie.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, the stormwater management pond there, are you planning on working with the Fergusons just to provide some landscaping to maybe block the view of that pond from their driveway at all? Because you had talked about a landscaping plan, and I haven't seen it at all. Are you planning on working with the Fergusons to beautify that corner?
In response to that, we can, there is a landscaping plan prepared. I don't have the details of it at my fingertips, but we will review that in concert with what's proposed there, as well as, the extents of any fencing, et cetera, if that is proposed through subsequent submissions, just how that would either beautify it or shield it completely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. And those are some of my concerns. I have others, but I'll be looking forward to seeing the report come back to council. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council? No, okay. So this concludes the public meeting with respect to this file of tonight's evening's agenda. We thank all who provided written comments and for their interest in this matter. All input received with regard to this proposal will be fully considered by staff in their recommendation and by council in their decision with respect to this application. A report regarding this proposal will be prepared for council, who will make a decision concerning this matter at a future meeting, not tonight. We will now proceed to pass the chair back to his worship. Mayor Measures, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much. I plugged my headset back in and notice that I'm getting a feedback, but I'm just wondering, do you hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up.
Hear you fine.
All right, thank you. Then I'm going to carry on. I think I can handle this. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Again, good job on hosting the meeting, and appreciate you doing that. Members of council, we're going to return to our agenda, and there was an item that I had mentioned earlier that I had skipped over. Given that there's a small presentation that's going to be part of this, so Terry Vachon has rejoined us. I'm going to read the recommendation. I'm going to look for a mover and seconder, and then we're going to welcome, there's Amanda Murray, and I believe Erica Dewey could be joining us as well. So, council, I'll read the recommendation, look for a mover and seconder. It's quite simple. Be it resolved that council, the Township of Clearview, hereby receive a PCR 021-2021. It's the Clearview Eco Park and Community Garden 2021 update report for information. A mover and seconder to put it on the floor. Mr. Broderick, Councillor Deneen, and I want to welcome Terry once again, Amanda, and Erica. Nice to see you, Erica. Welcome to our council meeting. I don't think we've ever had you on our screen before, but welcome aboard. I'll turn to Terry first, though. Terry, go ahead to introduce us.
Thank you, Your Worship. And yes, thanks for letting me introduce part of my teammates here, Ms. Dewey and Ms. Murray. Just for council's knowledge, as you know, the Eco Park has really had a significant facelift this year. We provided council had provided some resources via the budget process to allow us to provide a dedicated staff member from our beautification team to the Eco Park. If you haven't been down there yet, we really encourage you to go see it for yourself with your own eyes. Your Worship, you were mentioning about an event that just recently happened at the Eco Park, and it was a fantastic event. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ms. Murray and Ms. Dewey. They're going to provide you a bit of a presentation of what we've done so far this year. And we look forward to the budgeting process as we plan to really take the Eco Park and the community garden to the next level. So thank you, Your Worship, and I'll hand over the floor over to Ms. Dewey and Ms. Murray.
Thank you, Terry. Hello, Amanda.
Hello, Your Worship, and good evening, members of council. Thank you, Terry, for the introduction. So there is a council report on the agenda, but we wanted to supplement the report with a presentation. So let me just start that right now. Erica is also going to be joining at the end to answer any questions as we go through. So as Terry had mentioned, the Clearview Eco Park and Community Garden was a project that was part of our 2021 budget process, and we were able to hire Erica Dewey as our Eco Park assistant. And just to give members of council, as well as everybody that's listening in, an update, our mission is to be dedicated to the growth and sustainability of the Clearview Eco Park as a native tree, plant, bird, and bee sanctuary. And it's by providing these valuable services to maintain the community garden, all the trails, and the naturalized areas, as well as promoting the Eco Park as a year-round opportunity for community activities and education that will benefit residents and for visitors. Our main vision is to create the Eco Park as an ecological destination in Clearview, and I hope you'll see throughout this presentation some of the key areas that we've been working on and some great opportunities for growth in the next few years. So commencing several years ago, we created the Eco Park Loop Trail, which is a 5-kilometer loop that connects the naturalized area with downtown Stayner. This is done through a variety of means. So there's limestone screening trails, there's a forest area path to the west side, as well as the sidewalks and road allowances through downtown Stayner. There's a downloadable map, as well as over 1,000 copies of a map brochure that is printed each year that we hand out at our information center, as well as available at the park. This year, the trail maintenance was a priority, and Erica and our beautification team were able to update the screenings, lay some fresh screenings down, as well as just better maintain the surrounding or adjacent sides of the trail to ensure a clear and safe passage. Obviously, our real gem of the Eco Park is the community garden and our vision of growing the community one plant at a time. And I just love to show this picture because the top photo has the before, or the early picture from 2021. And you can see the transformation in July of how much work all of our volunteers put in to the 9 community plots, which are located within the park, as well as the fact that our community garden was professionally designed by a local landscape designer to help ensure that there was a wide range of space available for local fruits and vegetables, but also to ensure that there was a pollinator area, a children's area, and lots of wide open spaces for people to come and enjoy. I have to commend our volunteers. There were 22 dedicated volunteers that gave time every single week, as well as a really big group of just drop-in members of the community that wanted to come and learn and participate in the community garden. One of our other successes that we did was to ensure that watering was made accessible. When you have an area as large as our community garden, there's a lot of plants that need to be watered. So Erica and her team put over 525 feet of garden hose to make watering accessible. And all of this wouldn't be possible without the donation of tools, stakes, plants, and vegetable seedlings from some of our local businesses, as well as our service clubs. The community garden provides access to food and garden space for our general public as well. So there were 7 raised plots and 5 accessible garden boxes constructed this year, with 2/3 of them being sold in 2021. We also were able to harvest some of the local produce and have sales at our Stayner Farmers Market, and that was in partnership with the Clearview Youth Center. The Take 5 Challenge was a volunteer opportunity to encourage organizations to spend 5 hours in the community garden, giving back so that they could learn to weed and harvest and spread mulch. I'd also just like to share one of our photos here is the Stayner Lions Club. They utilized the community garden as their day of service, and they were able to help us construct and fund an accessible ramp to provide access to the community garden shed. Another big success from our community garden was the initiation of the Huronia Community Foundation grant, which was approved, and that was for our Safe and Caring Communities grant. And our goal with that will be to plant fruit trees, so then that way we can start to build a community orchard within the community garden space. At the Clearview Eco Park, we were able to utilize this year as the start of our program development. So Erica's knowledge and expertise really lent well to creating the Trailblazers program, which was in partnership with the Clearview Youth Center. And that was a weekly activity on Mondays. It was totally free for any youth in Clearview Township. We also had a really unique experience with Made Brave Studio, which is a local art studio here in Stayner, and they actually selected the Eco Park and the community garden to be a field trip for their day campers this summer. And it was just such a great way for Erica and Carol, one of our lead volunteers, to connect with youngsters and share their knowledge about fruits and vegetables and pollinators. The other really exciting program that we initiated this year was in partnership with the Georgian Bay Yoga Studio, and they offered a 6-week adult yoga in the garden on Tuesday nights and averaged between 4 to 8 participants. And what a peaceful, serene area it would be to have yoga. The Eco Bark Dog Park is another key feature of the Clearview Eco Park. We were able to create a weekly and seasonal maintenance standard that was higher this year than in previous years, with a focus on keeping our park safe for our four-legged friends. So things such as filling in holes to reduce trip hazards, trimming the low-hanging branches so that the pet owners could also be out in the green space, as well as mowing and trimming all the tall grasses for little pups as well as for the older dogs to make sure that they could travel freely. We also had the addition of the umbrella storage box, which just added a nice shaded feature to the Eco Bark Dog Park. Some of the additional improvements that we undertook in 2021 is utilizing Erica's expertise on invasive species. She was able to create a monitoring and management system, and working with some of our volunteers, as well as you can see our tourism students, they actually did a huge harvest of garlic mustard weed in late spring. And it's just really important that we keep invasive species at bay at our park, but also recognizing that it is still a naturalized area for all types of growth to happen. The Stainer Lions Club Memorial Forest is also a key feature at the Eco Park. And as you can see in the photo, there's a brand new headstone that's been recently installed as an entrance way into the open park space. And it just recognizes, again, our ongoing partnership with our service clubs like the Stainer Lions Club to ensure that these grounds and these types of parks will always be maintained and open to the public. Unfortunately, as members of council are aware, we did have some wildlife some bird boxes were damaged in the early spring, which was very unfortunate for our community and for the park, and of course for the birds that called those nesting boxes home. So one of the suggestions that we did and we rolled out this year was to include security and wildlife monitoring cameras. And we're really happy to note that since July, we haven't had any vandalism at the park. It's been very minimal, but definitely the amount of attention that was brought forward as a result of that incident had certainly helped raise the profile of the Eco Park. And I think just more and more people are aware of what's happening at the garden and at the park. The other great opportunity that we had this year in 2021 was by having dedicated staff such as Erica and myself as being part of the program lead and working with Terry and the rest of our team, we've been able to improve our response time to addressing issues and concerns identified by residents. Things such as adding the scoop and poop bags for the dogs, or creating a better plan when it came to weeding and doing some of the trail maintenance and the lawn maintenance. So just being able to improve our response and to ensure that we're always providing a safe and welcoming place for our community members has just been greatly improved because of having dedicated staff. A really great part of the Eco Park is our ability to connect with community members who can contribute to something which is called citizen science. And citizen science utilizes technology. So in our case, an app called iNaturalist, where you can add to our project. So the Clearview Eco Park is a project that's listed within the profile. And the members of our community, whether you're beginner, first time coming out and identifying wildlife, or you're an expert observer, you can make those observations about plants, trees, insects, other species, which all will add to the monitoring and the education of the biodiversity within the Eco Park. It's a great educational tool. It will be able to increase the species identification. We'll be able to utilize that information to create more awareness about our local environment. And we can start to share some of the, wildlife neighbors that call the Eco Park home. Like this young lady right here, a snapping turtle, just laying her eggs in the early spring. So again, just really great way to contribute to the overall awareness of the Eco Park. We were able to also launch a wider social media platform. So utilizing Facebook and Instagram by creating more general interest and more awareness about the eco park, the community garden, and the different projects that were happening. A regular feature was Meet Your Wild Neighbor, where Erica would post photos and information about wildlife that could be found in the eco park, as well as some of the volunteers contributed weekly to a little column called Sunday's Clippings, which was a weekly gardening tip provided by the community garden volunteers. It was also a great platform to start to share our success stories. So again, when we had the announcement with the Smart and Caring Community Grant, there was an amazing production done with Barrie CTV News, and we were able to just reshare that information and just grow the attention that is really needed at the eco park. So where can you find us? On Instagram at Eco Park Community Garden, and as well as on Facebook. We also have a lot of information posted on our website, so discoverclearview.ca at the Eco Park. That's where you can also register to be a volunteer for next year, as well as look for information about how to book a garden plot for 2022. Speaking of the future, looking forward, our plans for next year, which will be discussed in greater detail during the budget process, will be things such as enhancing our existing habitat. So utilizing the existing space, creating more native tree plantings, removing the invasive species, potentially even looking at the stream bank stabilization in partnership with the NBCA. As well as long-term, there could be great opportunities to do pond and meadow restoration. For those that walk through the eco park, you'll probably notice that we have quite a bit of interpretive signage, and some of the signs are out of date or they just need to be enhanced with new information. So one of our 2022 goals will be to create improved interpretive signage to better educate our locals and our visitors about the species that you can find at the eco park. Increased education is another key opportunity for the future. Things such as a bio blitz event. So bio blitzes happen when we can invite the general public, our visitors and our locals into the eco park, and they can really take the time to work with an expert and identify specific types of plant species or wildlife or insect, bats and birds, all different types of these blitzes to really better understand the types of wildlife and those that are habitated or inhabiting at the eco park. Another really great opportunity with Erica's expertise is creating more guided nature hikes and hands-on experiences for people of all ages. So again, having that great success with the youth and our young people, just introducing them to the naturalized area is a real big focus for our future. And then just in general, increasing active and passive users through fall and winter programs, increased volunteerism, getting our own residents out into the community garden so that they can participate in all aspects: planning, planting, weeding and watering, harvesting, hosting events, leading programs, a wide range of opportunities. And by having our dedicated staff, as well as the department being so supportive of the eco park, we feel very confident that we would be able to achieve these objectives, plus so much more in the future. And I just also wanted to add in closing, interestingly, COVID really had a lot of impacts, negative impacts on so many parts of our industry, whether it's recreation and sport or in tourism and culture. But one huge advantage that we really noticed was how many more people are utilizing the great outdoors. So this year in 2021 was such an amazing opportunity to take advantage of that and introduce our green spaces and the gem of the eco park to not only our locals, but to anybody else from the immediate area, so that they can get a better understanding of how close nature really is to being in our backyard. So it was a great opportunity to have to welcome our volunteers and to welcome more people into our eco park. So just in summary, we'd like to thank you for allowing us to make this presentation. We definitely thought that pictures would tell the story, and I hope that, if you haven't been out to the Eco Park and the community garden, please take some time to come out. Erica is with us until the end of October. And of course, you can always reach out to myself or Terry to get more information about how you can be involved at the Eco Park and the community garden. So thank you very much. And both myself and Erica are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Amanda, and thank you to Erica, and thank you to the volunteers that have worked at the Eco Park and the community garden. We really appreciate all the effort that has gone into it this year. I do have some questions and comments, but I'm going to defer to my members of the council first if they have anything they'd like to add or ask. I see Mr. Lamers. Hello, John. Please go right ahead, and then Mr. Broderick. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Worship. To Amanda, how much of that property are you utilizing, or how much more do you still have to expand on?
Good question.
That's a great question. And through your worship, I actually don't know the exact percentage of land use that we're utilizing. The Eco Park is a very large piece of property, but we have to be mindful of the settlement ponds that Public Works also has. So I would say there's still room for growth, but it's just a matter of balancing the types of programming and infrastructure that we need while also keeping the natural habitat. I'm pretty sure Erica and I could come back with a bit more of a specific number if you're looking for it. But right now, there's definitely room to grow. There's room to create several more pathways and trail connections, perhaps some infrastructure that needs to be added in, more things to create the Eco Park as a year-round destination. But certainly I don't have a number off the top of my head. So I answered your question, but maybe not quite.
You still have a big area to expand in there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Lamers. Councillor Broderick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just curious. You mentioned 525 feet of hose. How does the water system work out at the garden?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if Terry maybe knows that one, or Amanda. Amanda, go ahead.
Go ahead, Terry.
Sure. Thank you, Amanda. As you can see, Your Worship, we're a real team. We provide a team effort. We can all provide our 2 cents to any questions. So the water comes from the water department. Back in 2018, I think it was, the water department brought a water line from the main water reservoir to right on site. And then what Amanda was referring to is we've actually branched off the main line, I guess you could say, and then provide the extra footage within the community garden. But there's an actual town water line that's been brought through the Eco Park.
Good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's see, Councillor Deneen, I believe. Yes, go ahead, Phyllis.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody involved with the Eco Park. My grandson was out to the Trailblazers and he thoroughly enjoyed it when he could. It was pretty warm out during that time they were there, but it was great to get the kids out. To your credit and Courtney's, everyone in the department, it was really good and he thoroughly enjoyed it. You guys are awesome.
Thank you very much for the comment. Anybody else on council? Any questions? All right, I'd like to put a question to Erica and or Amanda. Can you give us any anecdotal story or any anecdotal sort of exchange you may have had with the visitors to our community we may have come upon who visited the park this summer? I know, Erica, you spent a lot of time there. Did you meet anybody visiting our park perhaps that had never seen it before?
Thank you. I actually did meet and make connections with all different kinds of people at the Eco Park, whether they were utilizing the trail network. There are a lot of people who also utilize the dog park. Getting in touch with those people, realizing that they actually are really passionate about that space that they can bring their four-legged friend to. our community garden volunteers, obviously you can see that they are very passionate and hardworking towards bringing this community garden to life. But I did have a couple different interactions with people from outside our community who are actually very passionate about the eco park as well, including Jane Peacock. She came in and was interested in helping pull garlic mustard and had noticed that that was an issue. And so she spent hours volunteering, and she isn't even from Clearview Township. So I think there is a lot of people in our community that are utilizing the eco park, utilizing the trails, and are just like eager to get out and start exploring.
Well done. Thank you for both your work and also representing us as a bit of an ambassador for our community. Thank you for that. I'd like to go to Terry for a second. Terry, a couple of small items that you brought to our attention here at Council about this park, which Amanda didn't touch on. One of them was, I recall, we received an unsolicited donation to our community as a result of the vandalism that happened. We received a nice sort of financial contribution, and I think that was very unexpected, but also very welcome. And could you maybe comment on any public participation that they can do to contribute to help keep the park operational? If there's any of the public that might want to do something like that again, Terry?
Absolutely. Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, we do not have a actual like a donation program developed yet. It's coming, and that's an excellent tip and a reminder, Your Worship, to us to develop that. You know, you have those really cool programs that you can develop where you can be like a platinum sponsor or those kind of initiatives. We also have it where folks can donate directly to a certain project component of the eco park. But yes, you're absolutely right, Your Worship. We were very fortunate to receive that donation. Again, capitalizing on our social media that Ms. Murray was talking about. We're obviously reaching out to the public effectively. And if we use that one as an example, that damage to the bird boxes, it was, again, the public responded very quickly. The folks have a real passion for the environment. And so, but for future references, folks can always contact our department, myself or Miss Murray or even Miss Dewey anytime. And we're always open to new ideas and hoping to continue to attract more investment into the eco park.
Excellent. I'm glad you brought that up, and I look forward to hearing more about that. And to Erica, it is becoming the fall season. And certainly as part of the fall season, this community is well known to see a bit of a migration of birds that come through our community. And so could you just comment from your experience, what do you think we're going to be seeing at the eco park through the fall when it comes to birds? Because one of the items that was not in your report is a technical item, and that is that we've entered into an agreement for wildlife tracking, that there will be some radio and transponder tracking information being installed in our community that will then assist for tracking wildlife. So Erica, from your experience, what can you tell us about the migration that's coming?
Thank you. So in addition to also birds, that tracking system will also track other bats, and they've actually managed to get small radio telemetry tags on butterflies and bees as well. Wow. Cool. However, our storage ponds or settling ponds are actually a great space for waterfowl to as a resting place between that pathway between Georgian Bay and Lake Simcoe. So we do see a lot of species that are migrating through, some that you wouldn't normally see. So I am often running into birders at the park with their binoculars, asking them, what kind of things are you seeing? Anything good today? That's like the typical birder phrase. But what's really important at our eco park, I find that our eco park is teeming with warblers, and warblers are these little small birds, almost the size as like chickadees, that are all through the trees. But what's interesting about fall warblers is they kind of lose that spring bright colors that they get in the spring for mating season. So it makes it even more challenging for birders, and they are all about fall warbler migration.
Well, thank you for that little tease, and I'm sure members of our community are interested in that. We'll take a tour through the eco park. Listen, this has been a great presentation. Thank you very much for the work you're doing, and look forward to hearing more about the great success happening at eco park. And to Terry, You know, it's amazing, isn't it? The recreation and culture side of your work is really blossoming, isn't it? Good for you.
Sure is, Your Worship. Thank you for those very positive comments. And
absolutely,
again, Your Worship, we're very fortunate to be able to attract, you know, folks like Miss Dewey, and with her background and her education in the environment world, she's a real asset to our community. And yeah, and we're just at the tipping scales. Wait till you see what we have coming next.
Outstanding. I'm sure council is looking forward to it. Thanks very much for this great success that you brought this year, and congratulations again to the volunteers. If there's nothing further for questions, council, thank you, staff. We have a motion on the table. I believe we have a mover and seconder. So I'm prepared to call the motion as we move on in our agenda. All those in favor? Okay, that carries, and thank you very much. Thank you, Terry, Amanda, and Erica. All right, council, we're moving on. We have Public Works Department now to talk with us about we've got several items from Public Works. So let's start with the first one. PW 033-2021 Consolidated Linear Infrastructure. Be it resolved that Council of the Township hereby one receive PW 033-2021 Consolidated Linear Infrastructure for information, and item 2 direct staff to proceed with the works required to complete the application before the deadline of February 18, 2022. Mover and seconder, please. Okay, we'll go with Lamers and Burton. Lamers and Burton, and I see Mr. Ron is on board. Mike, did you want to comment on this, or pretty straightforward?
I just really the reports for council's information. It's you know, mapping our stormwater infrastructure is something that we've been working on all summer with a GIS student and our GIS technicians guidance. Yeah, just let council know, like the government is trying to come up with ways to ease the pain on developers. This should allow us to install sewer mains and storm pipes similar to the way we can do water mains. We get a form filled out by an engineer. We ensure that the design is adequate, and then we move forward. Right now, for a developer to install sewer and storm pipes, they have to provide us the design, and then it goes to the Ministry of Environment and sits on a desk for months because of the backlog. So it could take, you know, up to a year from the time of conception till you actually get a permit to install sewer pipes. So we'll get this done. It won't be too onerous, but it is going to be, you know, there's a lot of work to do it, but because we've already done it with the drinking water systems, we should be able to handle it.
Thank you very much, Mike. Any questions to Mike of this report? I see Mr. Perot is also with us. Dan, nice to see you. All right. Seeing none, I'm prepared to move on. Thank you, Mike, for the report. Council, you've heard the motion. We've got a mover and seconder. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Okay, we've got a couple of established public highway. This has to do with small portions of roadway or small portions of property that are being turned into public highways. So first one is PW 034-2021. Recommendation be it resolved, Council of the Township hereby one, receive report PW 034-2021 regarding the establishment of certain lands as public highway. This is County Road 42 and Margaret Street. And item 2, pass a bylaw to establish certain lands as the public highway. Dan, need to explain anything? Or?
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't think so. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. Those are pieces of properties that, to be honest with you, our director, Mr. Ron, has taken on for development in the area, and looking forward for developers and for intersection alignments and realignments. These properties have been acquired and now can become part of the township road network.
Perfect. Mike, anything to add? Okay.
Yeah, just one thing, Your Worship. Probably important for council, and also these were handled as what's called a friendly expropriation. So we actually negotiated with the property owners rather than just taking the property. And every single property owner that we did these negotiations with, thank the township for taking the time and for the process. At the end of the day, the township got what they required. The property owners got what they needed, But it wasn't, the lawyers didn't get rich. Let's just leave it at that.
They have other ways to get rich. Fair enough. Thanks, Mike, for that. I may have got ahead of myself. Did I call for a mover and seconder on this motion? I did not. Thank you. Mover, please. Mr. Walker, seconded. Mr. Deputy Mayor. Council, you've heard the discussion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Second item, 35, establish a public highway for Warrington Road and Margaret. That's at the other end of this particular project. Recommendation be it resolved, Council of the Township Clearview hereby receive report PW 035-2021 regarding the establishment of certain lands as public highway, Warrington Road and Margaret Street. And item 2, pass a bylaw to establish certain lands as a public highway. Council, a mover and seconder, please. Lamers and Broderick. And any questions on this one? All seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you, that carries. Number 36 is establish public highway Superior and Nixon, which is not connected to the previous project, Superior and Nixon. Recommendation be it resolved, Council of the Township Clearview hereby 1, receive report PW 036-2021 regarding the establishment of certain lands as public highway Superior Street and Nixon Street, and pass a bylaw to establish certain lands as a public highway. Mover and seconder on this motion. Again, Deneen and Walker this time. Deneen and Walker. And any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And it passes unanimous. All right. Thank you, Council. Now we have a Public Works Administrative Assistant position. So PW 037. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township Clearview hereby 1, receive report PW 037-2021 Public Works Administrative Assistant position dated September 13, 2021. And item 2, Council approve the new permanent full-time Public Works Administrative Assistant position. And item 3, that staff be directed to recruit and fill the position in the 4th quarter of 2021. Okay, I see our HR director is here. Mr. Ron, Mr. Perot, can I have a mover and seconder to get this on the floor? Mr. Broderick, seconded by Mr. Walker. Thank you very much. And how about we start with Mr. Ron as the head of the department. Mr. Ron, would you like to speak to this direction?
Sure, thank you, Your Worship. Well, bringing an extra staff person in isn't something that we discuss lightly. Obviously, the reports I bring in are not usually for staffing, but more engineering related. But there is a bit of a trend with all the council reports tonight. Nick Ainley talked about phase 1A of one subdivision, 72 units taking 3 years. The implementation part of our department, well, we're part of that process for the entire 3 years. And after approval, we take it over. So until there's an actual house on that, everything that happens in between is Public Works. We have to review all their civil drawings, make sure the water and the sewers work with our systems, the storm, right down to the lot grading that's done at the end when the houses are built. So there's an incredible amount of work there. When all of those property acquisitions for future road improvements, we're about to get hit with lots of development. We're already reviewing all of these other subdivisions, but in addition to the Dancore property, right, Nottawasaga Station, Ashton Meadows, since then there's been property changing hands in Stainer for at least 2,500 units that are interested in moving forward. We've got interest in Creemore, not only on Alliance, but another big chunk of property that we're just looking at now. New interest in Nottawa that I was in a meeting today to talk about. So let's just go to where we were at a year ago when we didn't have any of the extra stuff and we were maintaining, we utilize lots of other departments. Our Public Works clerk, whose job is to look after all the day-to-day stuff of the outdoor works. With all the other work that we're taking on in administration, the Public Works Department is also taking on in the day-to-day duties. It's just one of those things where it's time. The clerk, the HR manager, the CIO, Dan, they all helped formulate this report. I'd like Tammy to speak to some of it. Like Tammy did a lot of work just polling other municipalities. When Dan came here, it's kind of like, well, where's the admin assistant, right? Like everybody's got them. We're a little behind that way, but now that things are taking off, it's really important that you know, Dan and I should have an opportunity to discuss what's coming in the future for this municipality, and not necessarily, you know, trying to set meetings up for 2,000 lot developments, if that makes sense. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ron. I will defer directly to Ms. Gill, and I'll ask the CIO to stand by as well. Ms. Gill, you're the HR manager for the township. You want to review what Mr. Ron and Mr. Perot and Mr. Ferguson are proposing?
Yeah, good evening, Your Worship and Council. I just wanted to provide my support for this position for the Public Works Department. I did poll 13 other municipalities, and a number of them, all but 3, had at least 3 admin support positions. And what I envision for this position is maybe a little bit of project management. So making sure timelines are being met and making sure that the paperwork is being tracked and kept care of. You know, we need to think about succession planning as well. There's a few people that aren't that far away from retirement where we need to be able to access that information, and where will we find it? And just having those good records, I think this person can help with. In addition to that, there's a lot of bills, invoices that come along with all of our developments, and this person will be able to help transition it from signatures to the finance department, as well as just help with all administrative tasks for Mr. Ron and Mr. Perot, just to help that department continue to grow and to flourish with all of the development that we're expecting and all of the changes that are happening in our communities. And I think this is a great opportunity, you know, to ask for this position. And I think it's well worth it at this point in time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gill. All right, I can turn directly to the members of council. If they have any questions in regards to the report and the comments from the staff. The staff are available here to answer any of your questions. No one has any questions? I think that's excellent to see. How about I go to Mr. Ferguson then with my quick question, why I asked you to be on standby. Mr. Ferguson, could you just comment on sort of your observations of workload and how workload distribution and how admin assistant work is critical to keep high performance in our senior management team?
Yes, I will. First of all, I just want to give council a little bit of an example. We just experienced this past week. Mike was away for 2 days, and we were simply coordinating a meeting. And the amount of time and effort in order to get it right, depending on the specific meeting that you have, requires a lot of consultation with other departments. And for somebody to leave something that they're technically reviewing and then go and try to organize something, it's changing gears, and it happens a lot, and it's frustrating. It creates a lot of extra work for people, especially in Mike's main office. And I've watched it carefully here for the last little while to see how much administrative necessities would have to come out of this, and it's significant. The record keeping piece is critically important, especially for Mike with respect to water and other details that he has to keep. And right now, that there's a backlog of that stuff being recorded electronically, I would say, and in a way that can easily be found. And we always have to come back to those documents, and that's building up because the time to go back and do that is not there. So I see it as a significant demand on the Public Works Office. I really do. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you. And so my other question would be to you, John, and or Tammy. In this report, it talks about this person being hired in the last quarter of the year, and this would then be an added person. Is there a comment in regards to how this fits into both the 2021 and the 2022 budget ask? So for John and or Tammy.
It's the last quarter, so it's only going to be a portion of the fiscal year. My understanding, and I'll ask Kelly, our finance director, to step in as well, that there should be enough money within the budget this year to finish it off. And then we would prepare for 2022.
Okay.
I'd ask Kelly to confirm.
Hello, Ms. McDonald.
Good evening, through your worship. Yes, we have figured out the financing, so we're fine for 2021. And then it will be included in the 2022 budget process.
Okay, so council will have an opportunity to discuss this if they need to in the future at this time. Okay, anything further then from members of council? Oh, Deputy Mayor, you're on again, off again. Okay, all right. Okay, well, if everybody's comfortable then, I appreciate the staff report and thank you very much for the coordinated effort to bring forward this report that's important for us. So members of council, we have a mover and seconder on the floor, so I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, council.
All right.
Much appreciated.
Right on, Mike. We'll get you to these meetings somehow, okay, Mike? All right. Members of council, we're on to finance right now. So Kelly, don't go away. You were just here. Finance, FIN 022. This is the OIC debenture bylaw regarding the Clearview Library Stainer Branch project. So the recommendation reads, be it resolved that council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive the OILC debenture bylaw, Clearview Library Stainer Branch report for information. And item 2, pass bylaw number 21-91 to authorize the OILC debenture at 2.5% for the Clearview Library Stainer Branch. Okay, mover and seconder to put it on the floor, and then we'll hear from Kelly. Mr. Broderick, thank you. Mr. Deputy Mayor, thank you. And Kelly, this is a very good report in my opinion, because we first of all got a very good rate from the Ontario government regarding their debenture program. And maybe you could outline some of the items that you've mentioned in your report and your explanatory note.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I was very excited to see the rate sheet come in at 2.5. I believe we originally started budgeting at 5%. So to see that was a huge relief. The explanatory note sort of outlines where the funding is coming from. We still have 25 additional thousand per year going back into a reserve that we'll be discussing in the 2022 budget plan, because I know the Creemore branch is looking for additions down the road as well. We've also used some development charge funding, and as our economists are so happy to say, please use it or you will lose it. So the explanatory note has all of the details on the financing, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Kelly, and appreciate your hard work on this. And I have to tell council, I was quite excited when Kelly came in to show me this. I was like, wow, that's terrific. 2.5, good job. Anyway, okay, any questions to Kelly or the CAO? Members of council? All right, I think the report really does speak for itself. Thank you for both the report and for the explanatory addition that was added to the agenda. Members of council, you've heard the report, and I've got a mover and seconder, so I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that also carries unanimous. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Kelly. And we're going to move over to the clerk's department. And I believe Kayla Raymer is with us, as well as our clerk, of course. So I have this report I'd like to read. This is LS011, the Indigenous Land Acknowledgement Recommendation. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive report LS011 2021, the Indigenous Land Acknowledgement dated September 13, 2021. And item 2, that Council directs staff to schedule an education session on the proposed Indigenous Land Acknowledgement Statement provided within this report to give further context on the acknowledgement and provide Council the opportunity to give feedback prior to adoption. So can I have a mover and seconder to put this on the floor? Where are we at? Mr. Broderick, Ms. Deneen, Broderick and Deneen, and I appreciate that. So Ms. Clerk, I'm going to defer directly to Kayla because I know she worked very diligently on this report. Kayla, would you like to outline for Council some of the highlights of this?
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council and staff. I'd like to begin by thanking the Clearview community for their interest and input in creating a land acknowledgement as we move forward with this initiative. We received various emails, letters, and suggestions that were greatly appreciated and demonstrated the community's desire to grow and learn. However, the research contained in this report is staff sourced and by no means exhaustive. It's intended to be a high-level overview to provide background information for Council's consideration. The report provides a brief overview of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to actions. The report outlines 5 calls to actions that are directed to the municipal level of government, including call to action number 57, which reads, provide education to public servants on the history of Aboriginal peoples, including the history and legacy of residential schools, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, treaties and Aboriginal rights, Indigenous law, and Aboriginal Crown relations. This will require skills-based training in intercultural competency, conflict resolution, human rights, and anti-racism. The report to Council provides a proposed land acknowledgement. Although a land acknowledgement isn't specifically identified as one of the 94 recommendations listed in the calls to action, the spirit of acknowledging the historic treaties is consistent with Call to Action Recommendation 47, where all levels of government are called upon to renounce concepts used to justify European sovereignty over Indigenous peoples and lands. The report provides additional information on the treaty and communities addressed in the proposed land acknowledgement, as well as links to local community resources. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission wrote, too many Canadians know little or nothing about the deep historical root of these conflicts. This lack of historical knowledge has serious consequences for First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people, for Canada as a whole. In government circles, it makes for poor public policy decisions. In the public realm, it reinforces racist attitudes and fuels civic distrust between Aboriginal peoples and other Canadians. Too many Canadians still do not know the history of Aboriginal people's contribution to Canada, or understand that by virtue of the historical and modern treaties negotiated by our government, we are all treaty people. History plays an important role in reconciliation. To build for the future, Canada must look to and learn from the past. Staff have been in contact with various local Native Friendship Centers, Métis associations, and post-secondary institutions to assist in developing and delivering an educational workshop to provide a better understanding of where we've been and where we need to go. As the Honorable Justice Murray Sinclair has said, education got us into this mess, and education will get us out of it. Should Council wish to direct staff to schedule an educational workshop, we hope to provide opportunity to invite local Indigenous speakers to provide their perspective and history of the area, provide an opportunity for discussion on the proposed land acknowledgement statement in relation to the history of the area, and identify any additions or changes, as well as provide an opportunity to further discuss the parameters on when the land acknowledgement should or could be spoken. After an education session or workshop, staff will prepare a follow-up report to Council with a recommendation to adopt the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Kayla. And again, thank you for all your work in preparing this report. It's got some detailed research in it, Council, and so it's very, very good to have some great staff that have done this type of research for us. And she also reached out to many resources to find the right information that we need. So members of Council, do you have any questions to Kayla, to our clerk in regards to this? Yes, Mr. McKechnie, please go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and Kayla, thank you very much. And I see you're wearing orange tonight. Thank you. So item 57 there, under the call to action. This will require skills-based training in intercultural competency, conflict resolution, human rights, and anti-racism. Conflict resolution. Can you explain that a little bit to me? I mean, I know what a conflict is, but I mean, how does that apply to us?
So conflict resolution, they actually have a more discussion-based conflict resolution. And in fact, if you would like further research, I'm happy to provide it to you. But it goes through, and their justice system, had we continued to kind of learn and develop from them when settlers first came to the area, they would have seen that there was no innocent until proven guilty. They usually came out and said, you know what, no, I did do this injustice to you, and how can we move forward from that?
Okay, thank you very much. I was totally I totally had the wrong idea there. I thought when you conflict resolution, I thought it meant like between council members or something like that. But I
It
see what
could
you
be
mean.
there too as well, Councillor McKechnie. It could transverse those lines.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
So much to learn. I mean, we all have so much to learn. That's fantastic. Anybody else with any questions? Did I see another card? Oh. All right. I would like to ask the question to the clerk. I know, scheduling dates is constantly a battle around here. And as we heard from our previous presentation about admin assistants, what's the date that we're looking for on this, and what would be the time that we're dedicating to do a workshop? Ms. Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Measures. I know Kayla's been in contact with the different Native Friendship Centers and the Métis Council. We are hoping that October would be a date that we could schedule the education session, understanding that a lot of these groups and organizations and First Nations are very busy in the month of September, as you know, with September 30th being the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So we're hoping that they can kind of catch up with their projects from September, and we can schedule something going into late October. That's our hope.
Okay, so we don't have an actual date, but we're getting closer all the time. And again, it is a scheduling.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It's a scheduling
mess. It really is, and we're trying to get there. But I do hope, and I've spoken to Kayla about this on your behalf, Council, that I hope that we do get some participation from some, so let's call them experts in the field, whether they be elders or educators who already know about this material who wish to share with us. So that's what we're trying to schedule for the benefit of council and the public. And I believe also, Madam Clerk, we would of course want to include any of our volunteers from our community groups to participate if they could. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor Measures. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank Kayla for all her work on this report. She's done an amazing job, and thank you, Kayla.
Well done. Members of council, any further questions? All right, then I'm prepared to move on. Thank you, Kayla, once again. Council, we've got a mover and seconder on this motion. Obviously, the results of this motion will give you a date that will be announced at a future time. So, council, I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. Well done. All right. Now, Madam Clerk, you're not getting off so early because we're going to talk about alternate voting methods. This one came up sort of, we didn't expect it, but this is what we got to deal with. All right. There's a LS 012-2021 alternative voting methods, something that we've already talked about, and we have to talk about again. Be it resolved, Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report LS 012-2021 alternative voting methods update 2022 municipal and school board election dated September 13, 2021. And item 2, that telephone voting be removed as an alternative voting method for the 2022 municipal school board election. And item 3, that a new bylaw repealing and replacing bylaw 2087 and authorizing the use of voting and vote counting equipment and alternative voting methods for the 2022 election be presented and considered at the September 13th regular meeting of council. Okay, mover and seconder to get this on the floor, and I think, okay, where are we at? Mr. Broderick, you're quick with the card as always, I thank you. Mr. Walker, seconding, and Ms. Kalmke. It was interesting to hear that our voting system, our provider for the election has changed from telephone voting. Your comment on that?
Thank you, Mayor Measures. Through you to the rest of council. In the clerk's world, this wasn't very much of a shock. We've talked over the last few elections when internet and telephone voting kind of became the new method, that telephone voting wasn't widely utilized by constituents and electors. And for those that did use it, there was many issues. Dominion, I think, really kind of articulates those issues in its letter perfectly. There would be multiple confirmations needed during the telephone call. If you had a lot of candidates in one race to go through and hear the phonetics of each race can take a while. It asks you to confirm your vote multiple times. And if you don't make it through the entire call and you just hang up halfway through, your vote or your ballot would not be cast. So the amount of voters that actually use the system, to the complaints, it didn't make sense to continue using it as a service. So like I said, not a surprise to the clerk world that this was going on, but I believe that our paper ballots with tabulators and our internet voting methods will be great for the 2022 election.
Okay, well, perhaps not a surprise to you. Certainly was a surprise to me, but nevertheless, I'm glad that we're communicating this well in advance of the election. Any members of council with any questions to our clerk about our report? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Madam Clerk. And council, we've got a mover and seconder on the motion. So I'm prepared to call a motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous, thank you. All right, council, we also have a little easement issue here. This one is an interesting one. It's also historic. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive report LS013. It's a release of easement from 1912 County Road 42, dated September 13, 2021. And item 2, that the clerk be authorized to take all necessary steps to transfer, release, and abandon the following easement and register the required documentation at the Land Registry Office. The easement to the Municipal Corporation of the Town of Stayner for placement of water pipes registered February 14, 1954 as instrument number R051293 over the property municipally known as 1912 County Road 42 and legally described as South Half Lot 17 Concession 3 Nottawasaga, except Nottawasaga 23175 and Part 1 of 51R 20548, site SIT as in site R051293, now known as Clearview. Mover and seconder on this amazing motion, Mr. Lamers, Mr. Burton. Mr. Ron, this is a very interesting one because this is an easement over something that goes back to 1954, which was a water access for us at Stayner to access a former water supply. You want to tell us more about this?
Certainly, Your Worship. So prior to easement time, about 120 years ago, the water for Stayner came from a spring south of the current reservoir site, which is approximately around the Mad River Golf Course. And that's why the reservoir site is where it is today. So the water was up in the hills. They put it into a underground reservoir with a with a truss roof, and the pipes came up Airport Road into Stayner, and that's how the pressure is into the system because of the elevation of the height of the water. So later on in history, when they drilled wells, because obviously water coming out of the ground isn't really sanitary, drilled wells were safer. They abandoned the reservoirs. Similar thing in Creemore, if council recall, we had that situation. And I guess these easements were just never abandoned, or whatever the proper term is. So that's kind of the short story.
It's a good story. A little bit of history of Clearview Township. So the clerk will execute a removal of this easement, and then the property owner is then not encumbered by the easement any further. So that seems great. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Ron. Any questions to Mr. Ron by members of council? All right. Seeing none, council, you've heard the motion, and I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Amend the cemetery fees. The recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive LS014, the amending cemetery fees. Report for information. Item 2, amend bylaw 17110, fees and charges bylaw, to include the revised fees and information to Schedule K, cemetery fees. Mover and seconder on the cemetery fees. Mr. Broderick, Mr. Lamers, thank you. I don't think there's anybody who needs to really comment on it, although it's just some updating on the fees. Is there any questions from council to this report? All right, seeing none, I'll prepare to call the motion then. All those in favor? Thank you, that carries. Okay, council, this is LS015. It's extension of virtual council meeting, board, and committee meetings. I'll read the recommendation, look for a mover and seconder. Be resolved, the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report LS015 2021, extension of virtual council meeting, board, and committee meetings dated September 13, 2021. Item 2, that council support continuing with virtual council, board, and committee meetings for the remainder of 2021 based on regulations and recommendations from the Medical Officer of Health and the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit. And item 3, that staff continually review the feasibility of in-person meetings and provide a follow-up report to council in January 2022. Mover and seconder, please. Ms. Deneen, Mr. Broderick, Madam Clerk, Mr. CAO, do you have any further comments you'd like to bring in regards to this?
No, I don't have any further comment.
All right. Any members of council have any questions? Mr. McKechnie?
Thank you, Your Worship. I can't support this recommendation. As council will note, I'm over here in the council chambers. I'm with all my friends here. Anyway, no, and I've been in the council chambers for the last number of meetings, so it would be hypocritical of me to go along with this recommendation. The other thing too is that I think it's time to maybe put the onus back on the mayor. I'd like to see the mayor get involved in when we can get back into meeting in person. I think there's sometimes we can do it in some of our workshops, and I'd like to see the mayor and deputy mayor be involved in that, and canvass council to see when council is comfortable getting back together. So the other thing too, with regard to the boards, the hall boards, I'm just thinking about it. Like, I think the last meeting that I had with the Dunedin Hall, they have 4 members on their hall board. All of them went to the hall for the meeting, and the mayor and I joined them, virtually. Had I known that all 4 board members were going to be at the hall, I would have driven to the Dunedin Hall to be with them. A lot of these boards members have very poor internet connection, and it doesn't make for great meetings. So I'm thinking that some of them, if they're comfortable meeting in person, then maybe we should be flexible in that regard. And so anyway, I'm not going to make a big deal of this, but I just can't support it. That's all. I would like to see the mayor take the lead on this and maybe canvass council and see when we can meet in person again. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor McKechnie. I tell you what, I'll start off just by saying thank you for that comment. And I will always canvass members of council if I have a special meeting or an emergency meeting or something like that to call to do that very point. And I also appreciate your comment regarding the volunteers. So thank you for that. I'll look for other questions and comments from the floor. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I like you, like Councillor McKechnie, nobody wishes to get back together and have our meetings back into our chambers. I did make a point to contact the chair of the Simcoe Muskoka Health Unit actually earlier tonight when I had to take a phone call. I had called her, and she confirmed to me that the doctor has confirmed that their protocol is still not for councils not to meet, and if we do meet, their recommendations is that we would all have to wear masks. We would have to put dividers between us, so we couldn't just sit. We'd have to put dividers between us to separate us. And when we look at the fact that only council members would be there and the staff members would still be Zooming, we'd still be Zooming. So we'd have to be Zooming, have our computers in front of us doing live debates. I think the combination of two it would be difficult and not practical. As much as I want to meet in person, I am going to support this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for your comments. Anybody else with any questions or comments? All right, seeing none. I see Tammy's joined us. Tammy, did you want to jump in on this, or I asked the clerk and the CAO, but Tammy, did you have something to say?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just really was going to echo actually what Deputy Mayor Burton was saying is, I'm keeping in close contact with the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit and all of their protocols and exactly what we've been told as well is that, dividers would be needed, masks would be needed. And the other piece to that is that for staff, it would be a workplace. And we have an obligation to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep it safe. And then during the pandemic, if the chief medical health officer, I get his title mixed up, if his suggestion is to not meet in person, just as staff is working from home where they can, I think that it would be great to get past the fall of schools being back in and see where our numbers are at before making a decision to change where you're headed would be my recommendation, just in my research with the health unit and watching the pandemic the last year and a half. But happy to provide information as the COVID compliance officer, as I've been called. So I just wanted to share my thoughts with you.
All right, thank you very much for that. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Measures. And just to kind of reiterate to Council, this report, it doesn't mean that staff stops reviewing the feasibility of in-person meetings. This is something that we do every week with health restrictions. And our hope is that we'll be in a different position in January 2022 to say that we're ready to meet in person. But yourself and Councillor McKechnie bring up great points that we will include with that feasibility, canvassing Council, seeing how they feel about moving towards in-person meetings and proposing some solutions in January 2022, taking in both staff, medical officer of health, and Council's thoughts on the process.
Thank you. Is there any other members of Council? All right, I have a couple comments to say, and that is, first of all, we didn't ask for this report as Council. This report was prepared by staff and presented to Council for our consideration on the agenda. And so I appreciate that staff are doing this and putting forward these type of reports. I would like to point out, though, that we are still a council, and we do have, a duty to meet and to meet in the manner that we need to have successful meetings. And as the mayor, I want us to be engaged in these council meetings, and I want us to be able to communicate effectively. I've stated this right when we started doing Zoom meetings, that this is not a replacement for council meetings to do Zoom meetings. It's not effective communication. It's simply not. It's not the way a council meeting should be held. It's the best tool we have to do it today, but it is not effective, effectively working together. Certainly, as a communicator myself, this form of communication through these digital screens and so on does not lend itself to understanding and getting the nuances of speaking to people when you look them in the eye, or if you catch their body language, or you catch their gestures and so on. So I find that it's not effective when you're trying to run a government like this. So if I want to point out that other levels of government, first of all, the county of Simcoe continues to meet in this form, but there are other county governments that do meet in person, and because they have very large chambers and they meet in person. Certainly the provincial house meets in the chamber, and they spread out across the chamber. The federal House of Commons, does meet in chambers. The Senate meets in chambers. They do have a hybrid version where they have both meetings held in some people are participating by Zoom or remote or whatever technology, and other people are meeting right in the room. And it's also interesting to note that they do not have plastic barriers between them at Queen's Park. So I don't see any reason why the municipality or the county of Simcoe should be doing the similar type of thing either. To have the officer of health give us this sort of direction telling us to wear masks and put shields up between councillors, and yet other layers of government are not doing it. I find that really odd. So the last point I want to bring up too is that the entire process of going through this comes from an emergency order that was issued by the province of Ontario for us, as we're obviously part of the Government of Ontario's processes. It's Ontario Regulation 364-20 underneath Schedule 1, the general rules of Step 3, which we're currently in. Item 7.1 says very clearly, nothing in this order precludes operations or delivery of services by the following in Ontario. And item 1 is any government. Simply, it says that any government is exempt from the actual rules. We're trying to do the best we can to help our community, help each other, keep a safe workplace, as Tammy has pointed out. That's what we're trying to do here. But I also believe that, by us passing this passing this motion, that's basically handcuffed us as a council, saying that we're not doing anything until staff brings forward a report now scheduled for January 2022. And respectfully, I think council needs to make these decisions. And so I would appreciate that we would then direct that council ask staff to get a report done, not that we're now just following the council or the staff direction to do this. So I'm going to be not supporting this motion as it stands, council. Let the vote fall as it may, but I'm not pleased with having this type of report brought to us at this time. So I have great respect for our council and great respect for our staff, and I do want to keep our community safe, but we also have a responsibility to deliver local government, and that's what I'm hoping we're going to be able to continue to do. So anything further? Anybody else with any questions? Sorry for taking up your time. There is a mover and seconder on the motion, so I'm prepared to call the motion. Those that are in favor? Those that are opposed? And I guess the motion carries. Thank you very much. That's why democracy is a wonderful thing. And council, we're going to move on to our bylaws. And we have bylaw number 2189, authorized voting and vote counting equipment. In regards to the report we just read, recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 2189, being a bylaw to authorize voting and vote counting equipment and alternative voting methods for the 2022 municipal school board election, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 13th day of September 2021. Is there a mover and seconder on the bylaw? Mr. Walker, Ms. Deneen, thank you. And any questions? Okay, I'll call the motion on the bylaw. All those in favor? And the bylaw carries. Thank you. Bylaw 2190. This is the amending and fee charges regarding schedules F and K. Recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 21-90, being a bylaw to amend fees and charges, bylaw 17-110, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 13th day of September 2021. Can I have a mover and seconder on this bylaw? Mr. Lamers, Mr. Broderick, any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And the bylaw carries. Thank you. 2091. This is the OIC debenture bylaw for the library. Recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 2191, being a bylaw to authorize the OILC debenture for the Clearview Library Stainer branch, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 13th day of September 2021. Mover and seconder on this bylaw. Broderick, Deputy Mayor Burton. Council, you've heard the bylaw. All those in favor? And the bylaw carries. Thank you. Site plan agreement for kennel at 11323 County Road 10. Recommendation be it resolved bylaw 2192, being a bylaw to authorize entering into a site plan agreement between Louise Ann Morgan, Mark Russell Watmore, and the Corporation of the Township of Clearview at or for 11323 County Road 10. Be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 13th day of September 2021. Can I have a mover and seconder on the dog kennel bylaw? Where are we? Mr. Lamers, Mr. Walker. And you've heard the bylaw. All those in favor? Thank you. The bylaw carries. This is the appointment bylaw. This comes from our in-camera discussion in regards to appointments of volunteers. Recommendation be it resolved. Bylaw 2193, being a bylaw to amend the appointment bylaw 19-06 to appoint members to township committees and boards, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 13th day of September 2021. Mover and seconder on this bylaw. Deneen and Broderick. Okay, and any questions? All those in favor? And the appointment bylaw carries. Again, thank you to our volunteers. Let's step forward and do that. Subdivision agreement, Ashton Meadows, phase 1A. Recommendation, be it resolved that bylaw 2195, being a bylaw to enter into a subdivision agreement with 863194 and 863195 Ontario Limited for Ashton Meadows Phase 1A. Be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 13th day of September 2021. Can I have a mover and seconder on this file? Mr. Lamers, Mr. Walker, and any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And the bylaw carries. Thank you very much. Okay, this is the establishment for the public highways. So there's 4 of them in here. Margaret, Superior, Nixon, and County Road 42. Recommendation, be it resolved. Bylaw 2196, being a bylaw to establish and name lands as part of a public highway. Be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 13th day of September 2021. Mover and seconder on the highway bylaw, Mr. Broderick, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And you've heard the bylaw. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And the bylaw carries. Okay. Notice of motion, new business. Don't think we had anything to come up. Thank you very much, council and staff. Number 14 is the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting. Recommendation, be it resolved that bylaw 2194, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the September 13, 2021 council meeting, be presented and read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 13th day of September 2021. Can I have a mover and seconder on the confirmatory bylaw? Where are we at? Mr. Broderick, Mr. McKechnie, and I will call the motion. All those in favor? And that bylaw carries. Council, motion to adjourn. We're just about to adjourn the meeting. I just want to say thank you. It's been a long evening, and thank you for everybody for joining us here tonight. Yeah, had a lot of work done here tonight, didn't we? Recommendation, be it resolved that the council meeting be adjourned 9:05 p.m. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor McKechnie. Councillor Patterson, would you second the motion? Thank you. Councillor Patterson will second the adjournment. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, everybody. Have a good time, Tom. Nice to see you when you're away. Nice to see you. And thank you, everybody.